Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome back for the FIDE Women's Speed Chess Championship Final. Anna, we are going to start with the consolation match between Vaishali and the chess queen, Alexander Kostenyuk. And then later, in about 90 minutes from now, we will have the championship matchup between Anna Ushanina and Valentina Gunina. How excited are you for today's action?
I'm super excited. It's going to be so much fun. And I think that both matches are very interesting. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see as well how it goes between Vaishali and Kostenyuk now in the beginning. As we've seen that Vaishali has been playing very, very well. But Kostenyuk, she's a very strong and experienced player. So it'll be fun to see what happens then. But it'll be really fun to see who wins this championship in the match after that. So we're going to get a lot of chess today and a lot of excitement.
We certainly will. And let's just remind everybody what we're doing here, what the format's been, how these players qualified. And we have the Grand Prix, which will be the 21 participants and a wild card just for this leg. So going forward, it's just going to be the Grand Prix participants. 12 of the players qualified from the Swiss events, and then there was a knockout bracket afterwards. And there are 12 people, 2 from each. And every participant will play 3 of the 4 events. So 16-player knockouts. As you can see here, the time segments for each matchup, 30 minutes of 5+1, 30 minutes of 3+1, 10 minutes of 1+1. And just a reminder of everybody who is playing, because you haven't seen some of the names in this tournament, but you will see them play 3 out of the 4 possible legs. So we know who the finalists are this time, Anna, but who are some names here? Maybe someone who didn't play in this knockout who you expect to make some noise in the final 3 legs.
Well, I mean, I think that, for example, we can see here, I think that we have several players. I think that, for instance, Koneru that we have there.
Yep.
I think that she might do that. I think that we have Drona Valley there as well. We have Hui Fan, of course. That's one of the big names that come up. I mean, I was just trying to save that till the last, but Hui Fan is a very big name that comes up there. So we have a bunch of strong players here that I think are going to, create a lot of excitement in the other legs as well. Who do you think, Robert?
I was waiting for you to say Ifan because, of course, she's probably the overall favorite, though I don't know her online skills nearly as well as I do her over-the-board skills. But another name that I'm very curious about is Sara Sadat. She is, you see her as the bottom left, the bottom of the left-hand column there. She's such a strong player, but again, I'm not so sure how often she plays online, where somebody like Daisy Corey, as you see her in the middle column, third from the bottom, she's somebody who was very impressive in the qualifiers. And we'll see if she's able to knock off some higher rated opponents. And what are they playing for? What's at stake here? 12 points for first place and 3 grand, 2 grand for second and 8 points. And you see that there's a difference in point total from third and fourth place. That's what this third place matchup is for. It's a difference in prize money and a difference in Grand Prix points, because you're going to add up your Grand Prix points from the tournaments. And just a reminder everybody that after this one, there's another leg starting on July 1st. It happens in very quick succession, but you are playing for Grand Prix points, and the top 2 finishers after playing 3 of the 4 legs, they make it to the super final. So Anna, we don't know for certain who's going to take this first Grand Prix. We know the 2 players who are competing for it, Anna Ushanina, Valentina Gunina, but first we will have Vaishali and Kostenyuk playing for the 3rd and 4th place Grand Prix points and prize money. So let's focus our attention strictly on this 3rd, 4th place matchup. I think we both kind of think that Kostenyuk has to be the favorite, right? If they played this match 100 times over, Kostenyuk would win more regularly, but it's just one match, just today, Sunday. So are you still going with Kostenyuk, or do you think Vaishali is going to take this match?
You know, I feel like Kostenyuk, as we said before, is the most experienced player, and she probably will win this match, I believe. But it's not for sure. I really don't think it's for sure. I think that Vaishali can really set up a very tough match. And we've seen her type of play. Vaishali is a very attacking player. She loves tactics. And I think that she's definitely going to make it difficult for Kostenyuk. So it's going to be very exciting to see what happens. I think it's going to be a close match.
Yeah, I think so too, because Kostenyuk has wowed us with her dominant performances. She won the first match that she played against Gunay Mamazada. She didn't even draw a single game. She was undefeated, 11-0. Then she played in the second matchup in the quarterfinals. She again won by a score of 7-3. And then she finally got stopped by Gunina, who went on a tear, as we know Gunina is capable of. And Vaishali, on the other end, has had several close matchups. So Vaishali's been very impressive when the score is close, of keeping in the match. She, I guess, won in a pretty lopsided fashion against Tur Mungzul in the quarterfinal. But in general, she's had very close matchups. So I think that actually helps her chances. Where if she's keeping it level, she keeps her composure. She said to us the other day, she's like, I don't have time to think about I'm losing or I'm winning. The next game starts, I have to be ready for it.
I thought that was so impressive when she said that because it's a very difficult thing to think about it that way and to not think about the results. So the fact that she can just focus on the chess, I think it's really one of her big advantages.
Yeah, because chess is a game that is not just objective. Well, you have to be objective, but there's a lot of psychology involved. And if you feel unconfident, you start losing some of your objectivity, or if you feel too confident, it's the same, where you're no longer just playing the board, but actually in blitz chess, sometimes taking those risks is certainly worth it. So we are about to have the first game get underway. We'll see what kind of mood both these players are in. But I imagine somebody like Kostyanyuk, as we keep discussing, with her experience, with the fact that she streams and plays online all the time, I'll have to give her the slight nod. But something tells me Vaishali is really going to make this difficult.
Robert, I'm going to say Vaishali then. You're saying Kostyanyuk, I'm saying Vaishali. It's my turn to counter you.
I was going to say that. So I'm glad you then went for your friend Vaishali here, because I was about to say, no, I'm going to go for Vaishali just for this match. She actually is the slightly higher rated player in blitz chess. That surprises me because of just how strong Kostyanyuk is. But it goes to show that Vaishali herself is extremely talented. And we see here that we have what started off as a kind of Grunfeld, but when white fianchettos, it no longer looks like the Grunfelds that we know and maybe some of us don't love so much.
Yeah, do you play the Grunfeld yourself, Robert?
Not from the black side. I've faced it a bit from the white side, and I always find it difficult to break down the Grunfeld because black does get a lot of play in the opening. Here's a different type because instead of like these c5, c takes d4, more open lines, this feels more positional. It kind of reminds me more of the Catalan. So Anna, I mean, when you see a position like this, what are kind of the major things that stick out to you?
I was just going to say, I guess the knight c3 is a very logical move. The knight is positioned in a very good square there. I'm not sure if the idea is to play at some point rook e1 and e4, or if you... Yeah, I'm just wondering where the white squared or the dark squared bishop of white is going to go. So yeah, where does it typically go, actually? I'm going to ask you. I thought that if you play e4, it's easier to get some movement, place it on e3. So that's why I like playing e4 instead of e3, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you want to play e4, but black is not going to make your life so easy. But that's why Vaishali makes me like queen b3. Now, Kostyanyuk had to make a committal decision with queen to b6. So, for instance, you can play rook to e1 and try to go for e4. She instead chooses queen a3, which goes for e7. But I don't think that's really that big of a deal because black also could think about playing e5 herself, and the queen on a3 feels misplaced. So this is a game of kind of jockeying for position. Rook e1, you're telegraphing your plan. Wait, why would you go rook e1 here? Oh, well, clearly you want to play e4. And you can't move your knight to h4 like you do in some lines because the knight on f3 is needed to defend this pawn on d4. So I actually think that black's pieces are more harmonious here, despite the fact that white has two pawns in the center and we sort of know her plan.
Yeah, no, I actually really agree with you. I think that the queen on a3 is not looking so active. I'm wondering if you could play maybe b3 and queen c1 at some point. I know that the queen sometimes goes to c1 in positions like this, but then I guess you'll have to centralize the rooks. But usually, like you're saying, now e5 is quite a big threat with the bishop on f8. So the queen has to go back to b3.
Yeah, and on one hand, you might say, didn't white just lose time? Wasn't the queen already on b3? And then you say, well, the black bishop moved from g7 to f8. But I do kind of think advantage black. Not that black is better in this particular position, but from the sequence of the last few moves, I don't actually like this move bishop to c2 because you're encouraging white to go b4. And after b4, I want to play b5. So it's not like b4 is a bad move, and it's one that I would likely play no matter what. And then I have rook f to c1. I feel like white, if black's not careful, white's initiative is about to happen very, very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And this idea that you're saying b4, b5 is typically one idea that you want to do when you have double pawns there. So I guess that after b4, a6 maybe has to be played to stop b5, because if you're able to play b5 and open up the queen side there and get rid of your double pawn. I think that should be quite good for white. And you also get a very active knight on b5 with the bishop on f4, helping maybe for some knight c7 at some point. So yeah, there we see b4.
And a6 is an absolute necessity, as you're saying. Like b5 is the idea. So it's funny because black sort of forced, because then you forced Vaishali's hand. You're like, you went bishop c2 attacking my pawn. I'm going to play b4. Now you play a6. I'm looking at a c5 square. That's one square I really would like to put a knight, because if you ever take me on c5 and I take, let's say, my b pawn, now your pawn on b7 is a weak square. And she plays knight d2 first, which this bishop on c2, Anna, I'm actually pretty concerned about it. It doesn't have as much room as you would like. And I'm going to go rook f to c1, maybe pawn to e4. And that bishop is somewhat in danger of being trapped.
That bishop is not having a fun time on c2. No, it's not having a fun time at all. You're absolutely right. There are now some threats. Now that knight d2 was played, the square is b3, or the square b3 is being taken for the bishop. So e5 now. Okay.
Yeah, she's trying to open up the board
at some point, but
was it
at the moment?
There's a great move here. I think b5 is possible for white, because normally after b5 you just play a takes b5. You don't want to open up my bishop on g2. But after b5 a takes, I have rook takes a8, rook takes a8, bishop takes e5. That rook was needed on the e8 square to protect the bishop. So because this rook is overloaded, white can actually get away with this move b5, and she doesn't play it now, but she can still play it next move, because if you take with the c pawn, down goes b7. When b7 is lost, down goes, she finds it. I mean, amazing so far by Vaishali.
Yeah. Wow. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's actually, wow. Such a nice move. That really feels like that really feels like a move that Vaishali would find, though. It feels like what she's been looking for, and now she finally has the moment to play this move b5. So there we have a little tactical idea. That's very good to remember in these type of positions, and to remember how important b5 is basically for white.
And it's not that Kosteniuk needs much teaching regularly, but this actually is a good learning moment, because she played e5, which she didn't have to do. And because her knight is on a sort of vulnerable square, there's one piece attacking, one piece defending, that's why b5 works. If, let's say, this bishop were on e3 or something, b5 would just give black a free pawn. But because this knight's under attack, that is why b5 works. And the reason the knight is under attack is because Kosteniuk did it to herself by playing e5. And she played e5 because her bishop was in trouble. Why was her bishop in trouble? She voluntarily went bishop to c2. So I'm not trying to be overly critical, not at all. But what I'm trying to suggest is that her plan was actually misguided because of this shot b5, which you wouldn't see in your head 5 moves ago when the queens were traded. But now that you're here, like, oh, shoot, I totally didn't see that move coming. And now I'm definitely with the worst position.
I'm wondering, do you think it was better to take b4 on e5 immediately, or do you think it was better to play b5 immediately?
No, I think what she's doing is perfect thus far. I don't know. It's a tough question to answer usually, because I guess it's easier when you see the moves happen. You're like, okay, that was probably the right decision, or ooh, that one was a little rough here. But it's clear that no matter what, Vaishali is going to have a permanent advantage in this game. She's splitting black's pawn structure. And now the question on is, how do you continue? Once it looks good, you want to continue to make it even better. But what would you do here from the white side to sort of improve the position?
That's true. I was thinking, I'm looking at the a5 and c5 squares. Now that there are no pawns that can eliminate those two squares, I'm looking at things like knight b3 and then knight a4, putting some pressure on, knight a4 immediately as well, putting pressure on c6. That pawn is hanging now, but I'm not sure if you want to take it immediately. Maybe you don't want to take it immediately, actually. Now the pawn on e2 is hanging as well, actually. So that's something that needs to be thought about. Oh, but she's taking it immediately.
But you were right. I don't think you wanted to take this immediately, because, as you're saying, the rook on b8 was under attack. She plays rook to b4, but this e2 pawn is now under threat. And white's pieces do look kind of awkward. So that's the one thing that black is going for. She's down a pawn, but white's pieces on sort of weird squares. e4, wow. I mean, no fear, Vaishali says.
No fear at all, but that's Vaishali. She's completely fearless. I think Kosteniuk is fearless too, though. But
yes,
I thought this is so interesting.
Oh man. So we have a position where white's up a pawn, but mobilizing that pawn from b2 is very difficult, right? Because black has the b4 square completely under her control with three of her pieces stopping the pawn. So what would your idea be from white? I'm thinking maybe trade some of the pieces, but we ask ourselves this question all the time. Which pieces would you like to see traded? Oh, wait. She hung a
Ooh,
piece. She hung the knight on a4.
she hung the knight on a4.
Oh no. Oh, I think she forgot the knight can come back after bishop d6. She wants to go after this
Yeah.
bishop here.
She hung the knight on a4.
Oh, she wanted to go for a checkmate. She thinks bishop h6 usually results in a checkmate when you have this kind of pin, but there's also rook takes a1 with check. So she's now in this
Yeah.
position. Uh-oh.
Can she play something like rook d? No. No, of
Uh-oh.
course, because there's also knight e6. That's the oh
Okay,
she's gonna take that. She's gonna go for exchange.
that was smart. I have to
Yeah.
give her props because I thought she's 13 seconds, by the way. Once that happened, I thought she was just going to like lose and totally collapse. But making this end game where the bishop covers the f2 square, we have the ice climbers on b4 and c5 protecting each other. This is I actually don't think this is going to be a win for Castania.
So really good that she can just think, what's the best thing that I can do from what happened? I was a bit better, but now I need to think about it another way. Now I'm not gonna try to win, but I'm just gonna try to hold this. It's really good to just be able to think about that immediately because a lot of times when you have a one position, but when you're better, you're always just trying to go for that win, and it's difficult to understand that you're maybe not in that position anymore.
Right. And she was all in for the win and she made a blunder. But here, this is actually really interesting because white needs to protect f2 and b4, both of those pawns. So putting the bishop on c5 as often as you can seems good. And the black king looks like it's helping out. But how is it going to help out? You want to play king e2, king e1, but then white can just play king g1, king to g2. So I'm not actually sure how black intends to make progress here, even though it looks like a position that quote unquote should be winning. It's not. I don't think it's winning.
Do you think that this is just a fortress now, that there's nothing that's going to be able to happen from this position?
Some people don't believe in fortresses. I'm thinking that this is, but what black somehow needs to do is get the king to f3, then you're winning. But as soon as you go king e2, my king goes right back to g2, and then my bishop frees up. When this black king is on e2, the bishop can move off the a7 to g1 diagonal, but you just need to take away the f3 square. Now bishop f8, bishop d6, whatever. Just play like this, and I don't see how black makes progress here.
Yeah. No, and Vaishali seems to know this as well. Like she's playing the moves. She's playing the moves. King d3. So now the king is going that way. Is she gonna try to play f4? She can't right now.
She'll try. And what she needs to do is somehow time it so that she'll have like a rook on b2. She plays f4, trades the pawns. Like the rook kind of needs to go like d2, I would say, something like that. But then the bishop will always come back to c5. There's nothing here. I think that this is actually just a clear fortress, except for the time. White has this completely under her control.
Yeah. But this is also the type of position that Castania can just play and play and play. But maybe she doesn't want that because as there's only 18 minutes left of the 5+1 time control. So I'm not sure if she wants to go to the shorter time controls, how Castania feels like with that. So it all depends because otherwise I was just saying that she could play and play this for so long. No, wait, what happened? Did
she
she
pushed
blunder?
her b pawn. She pushed her b pawn. She got nervous in time trouble, so she pushed her b pawn. And watch out for rook takes e3 coming because she lost some time. Oh, yeah. She had 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds for like the whole time, and then she got nervous that she was going to eventually lose, and then pushed the b pawn. She should have left the b pawn exactly where it was.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's what happens. And once again, 1 second is so little time increment. It feels like nothing when you're playing it. It's really difficult. It's really difficult to play it. So, yeah, that's what happens sometimes.
And what a game, because at first we were praising Vaishali for getting an advantage. She blundered a piece in a move, right? That was on her. She had a good position. She simply blundered. Kosteniuk was alert. She's like, okay, I'll take it. And then Vaishali had the presence of mind to sacrifice, her rook back for the 2 pieces to be down only in exchange. And then Kosteniuk, had an extra 20 seconds. I might as well use it and converted that into a full point. So I think that both players deserve credit in different ways from that first game, but it's a very bad sign for Vaishali, where if she's outplaying her opponent and she still doesn't get the point, that's nerve-wracking, at least from my point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think that she's now gonna feel a bit less confident after that? That when she has such a good position that she blunders, do you think she's gonna feel that way, or is she just gonna do what she said she was gonna do in the interview and she's not gonna care?
She just might have no choice. She may just have to play every single move as it comes, and they happen so fast that, well, you don't have time to sit and be upset with yourself. But I do think that any loss plays a big part, just because there aren't that many games within these matches, about 10 to 12 games depending on the match. So I think that it probably will increase her nerves in an already nervous situation.
Absolutely. Look at that pawn storm of black.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this. My favorite thing about this is the bishop on d5. You know how I feel about those central squares. Knight on
I
e4,
know how
bishop on
you feel about
d5.
it.
You just look at the quality of the bishops, right? This bishop on h5, not so good, and it may get stuck in a box, not unlike the one you're sitting and commentating from. If you play g4, there it is, and bishop g6 happens. Well, that bishop's not getting out of the box, which is unlike you because you've been freely roaming around.
I'm getting out of it. I'm getting out of it.
And I mean,
Yeah, bishop on d5 is a monster. No
yeah,
pawn that can eliminate it, or nothing actually. Besides, well, no, it's gonna be very difficult. Besides the g6 bishop, maybe, but then there's gonna be quite a bit of maneuvering.
yeah, and you'd have to play f6, in which case your bishop on e7 is totally useless. But
Yeah.
also, this bishop on d5, it's taking away the a8 square. So white just can play queen a1 or queen d2, rook a1, something like that, and use the a. Oh gosh, f6. It's hard to look at this bishop on e7. It's
She wants to make one bishop better, but the other bishop is just very sad.
yeah.
That bishop on e7 is not good, unless she can play some bishop d8 and then get it out of the other way, but that seems very tough too.
This is a sad piece. And
Yeah.
now I think she has to play bishop takes d5 because her bishop on e7 is under attack. And you can't play rook e8 as that rook is protecting the bishop here. So you have to take on d5. But then rook takes e7, rook takes g7 was also possible. Like she could just start scooping up pieces along the seventh rank. But this still, I mean, it's such a dominant position.
Absolutely. Wow. Rook e1, bishop f8 is going to have to be played defending g7 too, but
It's like, please take me. Take me on e6. I dare you.
yeah. And then e7 is coming. Wow, this is such a position.
It's dominance. And that's what happens when your pieces just don't have life. Is a good opening choice by Kostennik. And this move g6, I think, is the best possible move to make because you need to create some kind of tactical play. If black just sat and shuffled around, eventually she would lose the game. So by playing g6, I actually think her chances of holding this game are much, much better. This pawn on e5, excuse me, on d5 can be attacked with a move like queen to e5. The bishop can go to h6 or just to g7. I think that there's actually some hope here for black in a way that I didn't feel was the case a couple moves ago.
Absolutely right. That's really true. I guess that the knight is going to want to go to e4 to your favorite square. But because I guess also that if f5 is played by black, it's going to become quite weak. But okay, the white king can go to h1. I'm not really sure. But I think that the knight is going to have a good square on e4.
It certainly will. And the one thing you're sort of hoping for as black is just like there aren't enough pieces for white to attack you. So c4 play, trying to open the queen side, but I'm not taking you on c4. That would open the b file for your rook, things like that. If you take me on d3, okay, I just take back. So I expect this knight e4 move to happen in the near future. You can also play queen e4, suggesting that black's sort of cramped position is going to be permanent. And if I take away your most active piece, then I'll replace, there it is, I'll replace my queen with my knight next, and your f6 square, your d6 square, both of those squares are much more vulnerable without your queen on e5.
Absolutely. This is going to be a very good endgame for white. Oh, this cannot be fun for Charlie to play. How would you try to defend here as black now, Robert?
I think I'd play bishop h6 or something like that to hope that once we trade queens, my bishop can be useful, but I just don't see it with his knight coming to e4 so quickly. Because if this knight gets to f6, for instance, even if there's no pawn there, that threatens checkmate over here on h7. I think I'd play something like bishop h6, but even after saying it out loud, I don't even believe in it.
Yeah.
So maybe. Okay, so now take on e4. Knight, you have to take. The queen's trapped on e5.
Yeah.
F4 was a really good move. I like that move.
Hmm. Forcing the queen to take on e4.
Yeah. And now knight f6 or rook takes h7 check first, depending on what happens, is an option here for white because this rook on e8 is under attack, the h7 square. Oy. If you trade rooks, you're just completely lost. Oh, rook takes h7 now is possible. In fact, rook takes h7 just wins a pawn.
Yeah.
I think she'll do it.
Yeah. Looks
it
like just
yeah.
looks really good. Yeah, she's playing it. She's playing it.
It's one of those positions, Anna, where all you can say is yeah. You're just like, there's nothing possible for black here, even in this end game, right? You may hope, oh, white doesn't have pieces, no attack, but your bishop is still totally useless. The bishop is stuck.
Yeah, that bishop, and especially if the pawn goes to g5 now, the white pawn goes to g5. I really don't know how that bishop is going to get out in the whole game.
It's not, and the queenside pawns are now collapsing. d5, d4 is weak. Oy. It's just kind of everything that could be wrong in the position has been wrong with Vaishali's position. And that's not to say that she played that badly. I think that Kosteniuk actually played extremely well to get her into an opening where she wouldn't feel comfortable. Once the opening moves were out of the way, it was a position where white was just simply better with no risk at all.
Yeah, great opening choice by Kosteniuk. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing else to say than yeah, just like you said.
Sometimes that's all you need to say. Also, look at the clock. I didn't even check that out until right now.
Yeah, I saw it before 3.5 minutes. Kosteniuk had when Vaishali had a bit over a minute. So she's just been playing very comfortably. Kosteniuk really enjoying her position, and well, I guess that the moves that arise from here are it's much easier to play with white here. So
Certainly is. And she spent a little bit of time there, 40 seconds, in fact, and knight takes b5, because she could have played knight e6 right away. She's going to bring her knight back here, which attacks the bishop, attacks the d4 pawn. And now white has an extra pawn on both sides of the board. Also, I don't know, have you seen this pawn structure? These both sides have double isolated d pawns. D6.
I didn't realize actually I saw them, but I didn't think about it in that way. But
I'm just going to show that again because you don't see pawns like this very regularly. And I don't even know what to make of it. It's really bad pawn structure. So let's go to the new game. But weird to see that kind of situation.
Yeah. Well, it's 2-0 now. So 9 minutes left of the 5+1. Do you think that Vaishali is gonna be happier with the lower time controls? That she's gonna enjoy playing 3+1, 1+1, or how do you think she's gonna be with that?
It really depends how she does in this game because this, in all likelihood, will be our final game of the 5+1. Time really flies in this format. I honestly feel like we just started.
I know it's pretty much 3 games that they play with this format.
Yeah, they do. But I felt like we started 5 minutes ago, and then I look and we have already been here for just about 22 minutes in this 5+1 segment. But
wait, we've actually been over 22 minutes. That's crazy. Yeah,
I'm like,
time really flies.
I just started. Sometimes I feel like when I do commentary, it drags on. The games are lasting forever. Every time I'm just like, wait, whoa, so much time has gone by here. And shout out to the chat, who I see you all. There's not that much time during the games themselves to get involved with the chat, but we appreciate you coming, tuning in, and supporting the Women's Speed Chess Championship. And well, this game here by Charlotte,
we read everything you say, so I think it's great that you guys are talking to us in the chat. So don't feel like we're not seeing what you guys are saying, because we are.
We certainly are. And well, Anna, this position here, white looks slightly better to me. How would you rate Vaishali's chances in a position like this?
I mean, I would say that it's pretty equal now. What I'm seeing is that she's getting low on time in all games, it feels like. She's thinking, and just now she's 40 seconds down the clock. But I mean, position-wise, I feel like white should have a slight advantage here. There's a bit more space. I guess the rooks are gonna... I'm not sure where the rook's gonna go. I guess that... Yeah, we can see that the c6 pawn, the a6 pawn are a bit weak. I think if the rook should go to b1, the a rook to b1 to c1, or and then place the other rook on d1 or e1, or where the rooks are gonna. Maybe the rook wants to stay there on f1. I'm not sure.
See, that kind of contemplation is perfect because I also was having the same question. I was like, and she plays f4, so she says, "I want my rook to stay on f1." I personally don't love this move f4 because this bishop on g7 was not looking particularly useful. And she played f4 to stop black from playing f4. But something about this feels like it opens up the position in black's favor. Whereas if we go back a half step here, Miss Bishop on g7 really is not a good piece. So you can play f3 in sort of the style of the King's Indian and say this bishop is bad on g7 and my bishop on e3 is perfectly happy. I'll have some plans in the future. So I think that these captures only can favor black. I'm not saying white's position is that terrible, but I feel like this bishop on g7 being open is just great news for Kosteniuk.
No, I absolutely agree. And the e5 square could also be very good for black. There might be at some point, a knight going there. Maybe not now because then there's d4, but that e5 square is free now. So it really does feel like this was, yeah, this favored black, it feels like.
Yeah, the dark square control certainly will be something that black is going for because your idea was maybe c5, knight e5 would may take a little bit of time, but once you can give yourself this sort of outpost in e5, maybe even on the d4 square, these squares are under black's control for the time being. The rook came to b8 just to put pressure on b2, and I don't see the same benefits from white from playing f4. You've opened up the position a bit. I think, are you going to commit to e takes f5? That's what I would do, and then swing my rook over to e1 and just try to take control of these open e and f files, because otherwise I think all of the pluses are in black's favor.
And she's going to do that. So, like you said, that this might be her best chance now. But that dark square bishop it's looking so good. Looking so good on g7. Just controlling everything, it feels like. The knight is sort of stuck there because the b2 pawn is hanging. The b pawn cannot advance because then the knight is hanging. So it really feels like black has control of the position here.
She certainly does. And I think now that she's offering the queen trade, now I'm looking at some eventual bishop takes c3, because when we ask this question all the time, what trades do you want to see happen? Is a bishop better than a knight? In some of these positions, I can also just see this knight come to c5, as the queen on e2 is very important, protecting the pawn on d3. But I can also consider a bishop takes c3 at the right moment to hurt white's pawn structure and then start jumping around with the knight. So queen d2 was played, avoiding the endgame. I think that was the right decision because some of the squares would be much looser in the event of a queen trade.
Yeah. And so maybe the other rook is going to go to e1. Okay, we can see a check now. Because the rook on a1 is going to go to e1. Put some pressure there. Try to take the e file. And okay, now they're exchanging queens maybe.
She forced the issue, right? Because your queen
She
can't
is
move.
forcing it. So without the maybe, they are going to be doing it.
And well, what do you think of Kosteniuk's chance in the endgame? I like her position, and I think she's doing the right thing here. But maybe it looks better than it actually is in terms of winning chances. What's your take about the ensuing?
I'm thinking that the b2 pawn is going to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because if b3, then once again there might be some bishop d4, but okay, maybe then then bishop d4 maybe. What I'm also thinking here though is that black maybe needs to do something about the rook on f5, because I'm just wondering if white simply takes on f5, could that pawn on f5 not become a weakness at some point? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that actually taking on f5 makes perfect sense right now, because then you follow that up with b3, and as you're saying, the pawn that goes from g6, a perfectly defended pawn, over to f5, maybe you'll go to f4 and be a bit annoying, but I do think that that gives white better chances than just allowing black all the control. So she does use your idea. She takes on f5. Oh, she gives up b2.
She's giving the b2 pawn.
I guess rook takes b2. There's also knight d1 to consider. So that's pretty interesting here.
Yeah, because I was a bit scared of at some point some check on the first rank and then bishop g1. I was looking at stuff like that. Of course, that's not possible because there is a rook on c3, but could become dangerous. But I guess at knight d1, like you said, is the idea then. Oh, she's not taking on b2.
She instead goes for the pawn on d3. I think rook takes b2 is better, but this still looks pretty good. But b3 now at least closes down the queen side. And so if you take on d3, then I take on f5. And Kosteniuk's up nearly 2 minutes on the clock again. This has been a theme of this match. And if I'm Vaishali, I'm getting nervous seeing myself go down 2 minutes on the clock.
No, I definitely think that she's getting nervous. And I don't think she's that happy with the game she's had. After the first game where she really played an amazing game and almost outplayed Kosteniuk, Well, after she blundered the knight there, I think that that did take a bit on her. I think that she got a bit nervous there. Maybe she didn't trust exactly her calculations after that, and that's maybe why she's thinking a bit more now. So I do think that that had an impact on her the first game.
It certainly did. And she still has a chance that she needs to hold this game, not just because of the match score, but because of her confidence. And right now, she's in a position where both sides, I would say, have chances to win. And you're like, well, are you saying that's level? It's even? I don't like terms like it's equal, even though the evaluation bar may say, oh, it's just zeros, because you have different plans for both sides. Here, white has an extra pawn on the king side, right? 2-on-1. Black has an extra pawn in the center of the board and has more active pieces. Your idea with bishop d4 and eventual checkmating attack looks possible. It feels like black's pieces are coordinated better than white's are.
Yeah, I like the bishop h4 move in the sense that at least it gives a square on g3 for the king, but it just really feels like black's pieces are much better coordinated. What's happening here if knight e1? Oh no, of course the knight is protected still. Yeah.
No, I mean, knight e1 is a good move because even if you trade on e1 and the rook comes down, you're just getting aggressive, and that should be good for black. So knight e1 is a good move. Uh, Probably knight e5 is also good.
Yeah.
And the point is that this bishop is just an absolute monster on d4. Such a good piece.
Such a good piece. Knight c1. I didn't think about that move.
I didn't either, but she's going for the a2 pawn. So bishop c3. She wants to take on a2, but that's actually how maybe you lose games like this, where you go for a single pawn in the moment, whereas potentially after we trade on c3, like let's say I'll just show that really quickly, knight takes a2, I have bishop to d2, and your knight is sort of stuck for now, and this pawn on c7 is on a weak square. So that's how you go from a good position. You win a pawn, so you're happy at that moment, but later in the game you come to regret it. And actually, I mean, knight d5 now. Just what about? What about knight d5?
Yeah,
And
it
now you
feels
actually
like white is getting. Look at white's pieces now. The bishop on f6 is looking active, trying to eliminate that bishop on d4, exchange it. The really strong bishop on d4. The knight on d5 is a beautiful piece right now. Absolutely beautiful, putting pressure on c7, maybe some 97 at some
97
point.
now. It's a mating net.
97 now wins the pawn. I mean,
well, if you go king bishop h4, check and win the rook.
bishop h4, you win the rook. Yes.
Oh my gosh, this one turned around.
Completely turning around.
But look at the clock. So even though it's much better for white, you stole an exchange, the clock may tell the story of this game. 10 seconds left. She plays g4, good move.
And there are many pawns here. Black does have, okay, black has a pawn, an extra pawn. It's one pawn, yeah? It's one pawn, but white's got to be a little bit careful too.
Yes.
So that's why I guess she's not taking on d4. That would give, okay, I thought that would give like a dangerous pawn at some point. Maybe it doesn't. She has a pass pawn too.
That's why she didn't want to lose the g5 pawn, but now it's getting scary because this pawn on d4 is looking quite menacing. d3, you can't take it because knight f2 check. Knight forks are the worst thing in a game of essentially bullet chess. So she plays d5 first. If you go king g4, c5, she wants the pawn connected. So d3 you still can't take, but she goes a4. She's all in with these pawns.
This is scary to play, I think, with white. Even though she has clearly a much better position, this is scary when you have so little time because it really can go wrong.
I agree. And d2, for example, and the knight takes a4. She was knight b3 check, but now king c3. Very smart move by Vaishali. She didn't. Well, we can show that after the game, but she's so smart. She's just pushing her g pawn. She's winning the game. Wow, this was a game that Kosteniuk had in the bag, and then she ends up losing it because she didn't see her opponent's counterplay. I just want to show after this d3 move here why after knight b3 king c3 was so smart. That was the last game, so that this game will be canceled, I believe. So let's go here.
It's a great example, actually, of this, of forgetting about your opponent's counterplay, just like you're saying. So yeah, I think it's showing it.
And just avoiding knight forks. Actually, king takes c4 probably still will be good for white because you have so many passed pawns. But it's so tempting to just take a pawn when you can. And then you see knight to d2 check, hitting your king and hitting your rook. So she had to avoid all of these forks, and she was doing a great job of doing so. But it just, in this position as well, there was d3, just an opportunity to go for a trick. It's scary to see a move like d3 because your whole idea was to go king g4, bring your king up. You can't take because the knight f2 check. So a move like d3 would have been scary, and already white would have had to have the understanding with 5 seconds of the clock to bring the king back to G2. So after D2, you can bring your rook back to D3, and that way you put pressure on the pawn. The knight is stuck in its tracks. But these end games on are so scary with the knight. They fork
Yeah.
you all the time.
Absolutely. With a few seconds on the clock, it's so easy to not calculate one little thing, to just bring your king somewhere, and all of a sudden there's a fork there. So easy to have something like that. So great play by Vaishali there at the end, that she didn't miss anything and that she was able to take home the full point there.
So we indeed have a close match. It's 2-1 Kosteniuk. We will return in just a few minutes with the next time segment of 3 minutes plus 1 second increment. Be excited for more great chess ahead, everybody. And as we return, we see the overall bracket, the four players left playing today. We see that Vaishali taking on Kostenik. We know that they're playing. Next, we have Anna Ushanina against Valentina Grina. You can see exactly how they got there and what they're playing for. Reminder, there is a lot of Grand Prix points at stake, many dollars as well for the first and second place. You see 3 grand, 2 grand. And here, this matchup is for a grand and 6 Grand Prix points. So, Anna, we see a 1 game lead now for Kostenyuk. Do you think that Vaishali has the comeback in her now that she has a bit of the momentum with that third game victory?
Absolutely. I think this is gonna be Vaishali's time. At least I think she's gonna have the confidence now. Depending, of course, on how it goes in these games, but I definitely think that that was a lift for her to be able to win that last game. I think that the results from these games are going to differ from what they would have been if she would have lost the last game, definitely. So it's going to be exciting to see. It's 3+1.
You know
Although
what's
Vaishali has been playing a bit more slow than Kostaniuk. We've seen that she's had a bit of time trouble in all games. So
Well, it's funny
we'll
because
see.
I was about to say it's interesting that oftentimes players who are particularly slow in the 5 minute portion can be very, very fast in 3 minute. I think that there's
Yeah.
something about 5 minute time control that makes you feel like you have all the time in the world. So you relax, you spend a lot of time. Look it up right now. I mean, Kostenik is a couple seconds ahead on the clock, but so far we've seen a repetition of an earlier game. But instead of putting the bishop on h5, she put the bishop back on e6. A very important difference because now she can fight for the d5 square in a way she couldn't in that earlier contest.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that they're playing the same opening. How do you think that Kostaniuk was thinking here? Just that she had a great position last time that she played this?
Yeah, and it's a theoretical line, so it ended up working to her advantage in the first game. She wants to repeat it, but I don't know if she will after this. Vaishali found the ideal setup for black
Yeah.
because now the bishops just got traded, and this is another important moment. Do you take with the f pawn, or do you just take with the queen? You take with the f pawn to capture towards the center, open up your rook like this, but e5, exactly the move that Kostenik plays quickly, worries me because now this pawn e6 may become a target if you take on e5, and I just start piling up pressure on the e file. So it was a difficult move. It looked like she played it very quickly and she didn't have to think about it, but it just goes with experience in these types of setups.
Absolutely. What is true though is that there might be a nice f4 square for the knight. So we can say that f4 is a bit weak. I feel like black's pieces are quite active. The knight on d5 is very strong. But once again, the problem is the e6 pawn, just like you said.
And I think that Kostenik is going to play queen e5 here. We saw
Yeah.
that she enjoys trading off the queens going into an endgame. And I think in a position like this, where it's clearer where black's weaknesses are, in this case, the e6 pawn, maybe the c5 pawn, white's pawn's a little bit harder to attack because if you ever play c4, you lose the d4 pawn. So there she goes, queen e5. And
Yep.
she really wants to trade the queens off here. And I don't think Vaishali is going to accommodate that. She'll play queen to d7, I believe. Or maybe queen c6, just to be on the diagonal here.
Yeah, and it feels like, yeah, you don't think that she should exchange queens now, of course, Vaishali, because that would just give Kostaniuk a really nice endgame. So she's playing queen d7 instead. And
Now
knight
knight. Yep,
g5.
you're gonna say knight f4. I knew where you're going with that knight.
I know, I know, and you know where I want to go with that knight.
It's funny because that white knight may eventually land in e4, and then I'll be happy to see that. But the knight f4 seems much more powerful. I actually really like black's position all of a sudden.
No, I think that's the thing. I just think that black has very active pieces, which is the advantage here. But at the same time, the e6 pawn is an issue, and it's gonna remain an issue. That's the problem. It's very difficult to do anything about that pawn and to advance it or exchange it somehow.
But
So
for now though, with the knight f4, the rooks and the f5, like rook f5
yeah,
is a big threat. I'm hitting your queen and I'm hitting your knight on g5. So actually, what does white even do here? Because rook f5 is such a dangerous threat.
absolutely, absolutely. I was thinking knight e4, you know, just thinking what Robert would want to do. I mean, I'm gonna start placing the knights on e4 all the time in my games now, but
It
knight
looks like a
e4,
good decision. It's on a great square. You can't kick it out.
yeah. If rook f5, then I guess that queen d6, so you
only
can
move,
try to.
right? Rook f5, queen d6, the only way to get this queen to safety. And then I think black will continue to avoid trading queens. You do not want to trade queens in a position where you have a potential attack. So I think we'll see the queen go like to b7 and then operate on the long diagonal.
There we go. There we have it. And the queen doesn't have a lot of squares on d6, but the c5 pawn is also hanging. I'm wondering, can you take the c5 pawn now immediately? Or could you not?
She decides not to, just because you're taking pieces away from her king, and then there would have been queen g6. Now I'm still looking at queen a8 to go for the checkmate, but this rook may spring up to e4, which stops the long diagonal, which allows you to double rooks. She was rook d5, and Kseniuk steals the pawn over there.
Oh she grabs it, but she's going to go for a big attack here now, Vaishali. h5, and this is the type of positions that Vaishali likes. She really enjoys playing these type of positions, I think.
And with not so much time on the clock, I think it's actually easier often to play with black than it is with white, because you're looking out for checkmate on every move. From white's point of view, for black, you're like, wait, queen g4, let me take this pawn, or let me go queen g4, g5, h4, kick this knight away from g3. You see the aggressive plans.
There's a very clear plan here for black, just like you're saying, and queen g4 is actually quite an annoying move. It felt like.
Rook f5, which obviously can't be captured because there's checkmate on g2. And is there some tactic? I guess if this rook moves away, there's like knight h3 check, rook takes f2. Something maybe, because otherwise I'm not sure I quite comprehend rook to f5 in this position. I mean, at some point it makes sense, but I don't know why it was necessary just yet.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You're right. I'm not sure if she wants to play some rook f6 and e5, but that feels like that would take a lot of time. And it's a bit out of, maybe out of what the plans for black are. But yeah, not sure. Queen g4 now, maybe. Can you do it still?
I like it. It makes perfect sense to bring the queen here, and you attack the h4 pawn. The knight still can't move because you've made on g2. She has rook f8 to f6 instead. Something about this rook on f5 is worrying me in the long run. I don't like the position of it.
It's looking a bit fishy.
Yeah, but still, I mean, queen g4. She's not playing queen g4. What is it that she has against queen to g4? Okay, now this queen wants to come.
She goes. Or no, now is she threatening? No.
She's threatening.
I was gonna see if the rook was hanging.
I think it is, especially now with the queen on e4. It certainly is hanging.
It looks like the rook is hanging. 6 seconds.
And now she plays queen g4. But it's a bit too late, in my opinion here. Because now white is up in exchange. Don't play king h2. Ooh, queen h1.
Wow.
I think this is anybody's game. They've about total 12 seconds between the two players. White is certainly better here. f4. Wow, f4 was a brave move. No, now it's over. Trade queens and trade rooks, and that's all that you need.
Yeah. Yeah, it's over now.
Yeah.
But
rook c5, and then push your pawns and bring your king closer. Everything is under control.
Yeah. Yeah. As you said, rook f5, it was a weird position for the rook.
Certainly was. King d3, protect d4, attack c2 again, and that's a win on time. Vaishali had a great position. She had a really good chance there, but she couldn't find the knockout, and so that allowed Kseniuk to stay in the game longer. And, well, Kseniuk didn't need to be asked twice to take that rook on f5 once it was hanging.
Yeah. Do you think that would have been... Maybe the point was that she had to play queen g4 earlier instead of this idea with rook f5. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that was critical, because putting the rook on f5, it makes sense to double rooks because you have some threats along the f-file, but it felt like it was also vulnerable there. And so queen g4 was more in the spirit of the position, acting quickly, going for some more checkmating threats. And I think she just maybe didn't quite feel like she had enough there, but it did feel at least menacing from an outsider's perspective. So
absolutely. But once again, this is an outsider's perspective. It's easy for commentators to find stuff. But it's a whole other thing to play the game with little time. So
I always say that because I sacrifice pieces all the time when I'm commentating because they're not my pieces. Well, watch out for knight g5, by the way. That actually is a threat with his bishop on b7 and queen takes h7 checkmate on the agenda. So knight g5 is a move that's coming. But in general, that's not a sacrifice. That's just a good trade. It's a fancy trade. But I do sacrifice pieces quite regularly in commentary in a way that I would be much more nervous about in an over-the-board game.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of these sacrifices are brilliant, some of them are not. But it's great to look at them, even though you might not do that during the games because there are bigger consequences.
Yeah, and oftentimes the players themselves are thinking about the very sacrifices. They just don't have the time to calculate the ins and outs of every single variation. So here, actually, by Charlotte with the white pieces, I like her position. She has an extra almost 30 seconds on the clock. She has more space. Like this Queen C8, Pawn C7 configuration, it's not what you really want, especially with a rook on C1 staring down the C file.
Absolutely. Yeah, now she has to play c5 and d4, taking advantage of the fact that the queen is on c8 and the pawn is pinned.
And she's looking at d takes c, but then there's knight takes c5. If you had to take with the b pawn, then d takes c5 would be a great move right now. But the knight can take back on c5 because the rook on d1 was under attack. That's why she started with rook to c1. Now I would certainly take here, I think. Or I can't decide like if I want to take or allow you to take me on d4. She plays rook d3. So she had the rook on d1. She moved it over to c1, and then she moved her rook on c3 over to d3. So her rooks are shuffling in somewhat awkward ways.
Yeah, no, it definitely feels like there's something a bit off about those rooks there. And where's the rook gonna go now?
I mean, she chose d2, but then I don't totally get what the rooks were just doing, going from d1 to c1. Now this rook went from c3 to d2, and look at this for black. Queen on the diagonal. Can't complain.
Absolutely. No, I think that Kosteniuk is not quite happy with her position. And look at the queen and the bishop working together on that a8 h1 diagonal. They're just looking really good there together. Putting some pressure on the bishop on g2. The knight is sort of stuck on f3. Knight a4, threatening the queen.
Yeah, it's a position where I would say currently it looks pretty good for black, but in a couple moves, especially with rook c7 being a threat, I could see how this turns around because the knight on a4, Anna, what do we say about knights in the rim? They're pretty dim, but I can't be too upset about this knight on a4, but I don't know, something about it makes me feel iffy about black's position.
I totally agree. Actually, there's not a single place that the knight can go to right now. So it feels like the knight is very stuck there with this b4 pawn controlling the c5 square.
Yeah, and queen d5 is trying to free up that knight because if the queens come off, the knight can't be attacked, and it just doesn't really need to be. You don't need to be concerned about it. And maybe the knight will come into b2 and into c4. So perhaps she figured this out. But Vaishali trades queens, and now I think we'll play a3 because she doesn't want to lose her pawn a2. And now the knight b2 move is one. But I still like white. Knight e5's coming. You're much more active here for white. Where's the knight really going from a4?
Yeah, that's the question. That's really the question. Is he gonna go to b2 and c4? Well, I guess it is. I guess you just answered the question. But knight d2, can you? Or no, there's a pin there. Of course, no, you can't play that. But yeah, still knight e5 instead with the same idea.
Yeah, she's playing to keep the knight out of c4. This rook is coming to c7. Like honestly, white's moves are pretty natural at this point, and black is going to have to do something awkward in the near future. You can also play rook c2 now, because if you take on e5, I take on b2, and at the very least, white has a better pawn structure. But I like her move, knight c6 more. She's keeping more pieces on the board.
Absolutely. How are we doing with time there? Pretty much, this is actually the first time that we see that Vaishali has 10 more seconds than Kosteniuk after such a long, well, at the end of the game. So that's good to see that Vaishali is playing a bit quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Knight b8, threatening the rook.
Yeah, knight b8, another kind of rook c8 check.
What are the knights doing in this game?
I don't know, but the knight has promoted to the other side, so that at least looks cool. And the problem for knight d8, hitting the rook, hitting the knight, hitting the e6 pawn.
Knight d8.
And if rook d7, knight takes e6, because you're throwing knight f8 and the knight. Yeah. Oh my gosh, she got this.
That's a miss there.
And now
knight f8 now, yeah?
Knight f8, king g8. So I don't see a way to win a full piece just yet, but it looks good. You can also play
maybe you can just take on g7 then.
Yeah, I think you should. and she plays knight f8. So I imagine king g8. Where's her knight going? F4. She's going to F5. She's going to checkmate her. She's trying to go
Oh, that's
F5,
her
knight G6,
idea.
and mate this king.
Yeah, that's her idea.
But knight D. Oh, she had knight D5, I thought. Just to go knight E3 check and take away the F5 square. But here, now this looks problematic.
Yeah,
Still,
but this is the type of position that looks very problematic for black, but you just need to find a way to, to win as white. But now she's going h4 with the idea of h5.
she is, yeah. She's just going for the checkmate. H5 now, for sure. King F7. I think you have to run your king away. But this looks very dangerous. Just put the knight on G6. And white is insanely better here and probably just winning.
Yeah.
Ooh.
She's sacrificing.
Yeah, that's not going to help your chances very much because
those pawns. Yeah. Now this is probably going to be. Yeah, this should be very good for Vaishali here now.
She just needs to keep her time under control, which she has right now. But 8 seconds gets worrisome whenever I see her clock start going down that far. Rook A6 check the king, and the king D4. Okay, Rook A5 also is fine. King D3. So she's winning the B5 pawn, but here comes the knight taking G3. So I think it's not.
Gotta be a bit careful.
Yeah. She has shown that she knows how to bring the king back to stop it. Don't go king f3 because king f3 had there was knight d4. Don't go. Oh, it's check. I saw knight d5 and I was like, don't play your rook on b6.
That was check, fortunately.
Oh gosh, it's getting me worried. Now she's got it with the a pawn. I feel like she just pushes the rest of the way, and it's gosh, and these knights are so scary with no time on the clock.
There's so many forks. The king and the rook. There's just so many squares. That's a fork. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. And speaking of crazy, this opening is generally speaking very, very crazy here. And it's already crazy, but black has given up the fianchetto piece. I don't know why the bar keeps jumping like that. It's just wrong. It's a position that white is slightly better, and there it goes. It's finally calmed down, just like the time the players are calming down. The bar says, take a breath here. And this is now an accurate representation of the position. Slightly better for white. Black has a worse pawn structure, and this light square bishop can't do anything just yet.
Yeah, what an interesting opening. I haven't actually seen this before. Do you want to tell us a bit about the ideas here for both colors?
Okay, so white wants to first figure out where the king is going. I think it's going queenside. And you want to make sure your center is safe. You have both knights covering e4, but as you see, black is putting pressure. So essentially, you're going for the squeeze as white. You may play g4 if you want to expand. You may just move your knight to b3, but the white has no weaknesses that black can attack. And from black's point of view, you want to play b6 to make sure c5 is safe and sound, and then maybe go king to b7. Think about trading a pair of rooks. Whoa, knight d5. I was not expecting that.
Wow, already some tactics there.
And this rook has to come back now to protect this one. It's
under
attack. So that was a interesting trade. And she wanted to trade knights, I guess, because at some point f5 is a move she's going to consider. But what do you think about this position? Because to me, it's very unclear.
Yeah, I feel like it's very unclear too. I feel like this knight might be better than the bishop, simply because, well, there's this big chain of pawns on e4, f3, g2. So it feels like this bishop the light square bishop is a bit out of play. And it feels like the knight could find some better squares, such as e5, a5, e3, and then going to d5. So, and then there's this little pawn on c5 that's also weak. So b6 is gonna have to be played. I guess that the bishop will go to b7. But then if knight d5 and at some point and black needs to exchange the bishop for the knight, then the light squares for black might be a bit weak.
That's true.
So yeah, I like white here.
Everything you said make perfect sense, right? If you take on d5, some of the light squares in front of the king could be weak. I think what black is doing, though, is quite smart because white's sort of tied down. The g2 pawn requires the defense of the knight, at least so it seems. And with that in mind, White needs to come up with some kind of idea here. Because pushing h4, maybe that puts the pawn on a more vulnerable square. And this g2 pawn is protecting everything, all the pawns in the position. She plays h4, but I'm somewhat worried about this pawn h4 becoming a target down the stretch.
Yeah, and then we can see that this pawn chain, if the other pawn, the g2 pawn, has to go to g3, then once again, we can see that the pawn chain might be sort of breaking, and the g2 pawn might become weak at some point too. So yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So there are some ideas here for black too.
Knight c4, trying to improve the knight. That knight wants to go to e5. She plays rook h to e8. And g3, I can just take that pawn, so you're not going g3 now. Let's see. So a4.
A4.
Wait, the h4 pawn is hanging, no? Just if I take this pawn, I can steal one.
I think she's gonna go for it.
She does. And now just you can bring your queen back to say e7. I don't actually see there she does it. She protects her king. And eventually bishop b5, for instance, to try to take this knight on c4. I think she just stole a pawn and is not going to regret it one bit.
No, and that h pawn could become quite dangerous. She could be able to get a passed pawn at the end with the g and h pawn together. They're pushing. So if they get into an endgame, this might just be very good for black.
Yeah, this looks really strong. And you can play f5 even to open up the scope of the bishop on the diagonal. You don't have to play f5 because that will ruin your pawn structure on the king side. But f5 is a move you're always thinking about with this bishop on a diagonal that's blocked by enemy pawns.
Absolutely. Well, I feel like Vaishali's doing a comeback here. Do you not think so?
She is. She's only down 1 point. And in this game, she's the side with the better chances. So she definitely looks like she's in much better shape than she was earlier in this match. She goes rook d8. She's up a pawn. She's going to try to trade. The only reason I don't like this so much is it does feel like some squares are going to be a bit loose. But knight e5, she'll just play bishop to e8. She'll protect the whole pawn chain. And then maybe play f6. So I guess she's in time to defend everything.
But once again, it just feels like the knight is better than the bishop, of course. So that's, I guess, some compensation for white. But a pawn is a pawn. And now she's going queen d6.
She wants to undouble the pawns, get into an endgame. Kostanek says nope. But what happens if we do get into a queenless endgame? Because it is only one extra pawn, and a knight can control the dark squares, and a light square bishop can't compete for those squares. So I'm wondering, is white really that afraid of trading queens? I would assume yes, but there are chances for the side with the knight in an endgame down just one pawn.
Of course. But I guess that maybe it's easier to hold it with queens when there are a few more pieces left. So, but we see a queen here getting into play too. The king on b1 is not that safe, actually.
She blew into the bishop on b5.
No.
Oh, she didn't see it. The bishop on b5 was hanging by the queen on g5.
Yeah, it was completely hanging.
Oh my god. Now she can take on b3 and just open up the king because there's queen d1 check threats and everything. This is, oh gosh, she got away with one there. She really did.
How about, because there is some knight e7 checks, I was going to say, and the bishop would still be hanging. But wow, this just looks really good now.
Looks like an attack. The king can't get checkmated very easily because it goes to a3 and it has some of the dark squares under control. Queen c. Oh, she got a queen! Oh no! Oh no!
Oh, that hurt for her. That really hurt.
Oh, she hung her queen. That's gonna hurt for painful. Her. That's so painful. I mean, she was outplaying Kostanek in that game.
Absolutely.
She hung the queen.
Wow. And this is to show that type of stuff can happen. The queen was pretty far away. The c1 squared seemed like a very good check, but that can happen. But that's really going to be painful for Vaishali.
Yeah. Wow. Forgetting the queen was there and losing it. It's tough. We'll see if we can bounce back in this game. That's it's hard to take in that game there. So
that's really hard to take in. You can see it Vaishali as well. She seemed to be so frustrated after that.
I can only imagine just blundering your queen like that, and after playing what was a nice game from her perspective. Out of the opening, probably
Such a
felt
nice attack there.
yeah,
Wow.
she probably felt a little uncomfortable at the opening, and then she outplayed Castanier throughout that game, and then in one move throws the entire game away by blunting the queen with not that much time on her clock. It happens in essentially bullet chess. I like her position in this game though, with the bishop on f4 attacking the queen on b3 putting pressure on b7. Seems like Vaishali likes these type of positions here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I think that you can still see in Vaishali's face that she's still very sad about what just happened. And it's so difficult when a game just finishes like that. You immediately need to start a new game. That must be very difficult. You don't get any time to think about what happened. But that can also be good in the sense that you just get a new opportunity immediately. So it's a bit of both there.
That's right. And this likely will be the last game of the 3+1 time segment. There are 4 minutes and 50 seconds remaining, and both players with over 2 minutes. I guess if something happens in the near future, this will not be the last 3-minute game. But I wonder what Vaishali wants. Like, would she prefer? Okay, she needs to win this game to prefer anything. But let's say
Yeah.
she's able to score a point here. Would she want an additional 3-minute game, or do you think she prefers going to bullet?
It's so difficult. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not sure. Think that I think that I don't know what I think, Robert. I don't know what I think. I have no idea what I think. I'm just trying to think about how Castania played last time when she was playing Bullet, but last time we saw it was against Ganina. So, but I mean, I guess that Castanic is a very strong Bullet player, but we're seeing right now that both Vaishali and Castanic are sort of having very similar times. But I don't remember how Vaishali felt like in Bullet yesterday. How was it? How were the Bullets game yesterday of Vaishali?
No, she was good. She's generally been consistently good. I would
Yeah.
say that Castania, she probably has a little more experience playing bullet, but Vaishali is capable of holding her own. That's for sure. And in this position, in this game here, she needs to continue pressuring Castania. She's a great position from the white side, this king, castle, queen side, and the knight on a6 feels misplaced. White's pieces are perfectly situated here. The bishop on f4 cuts off access for black's pieces. This pawn center, white has an extra pawn in the center. You can consider playing e5, though I would not rush that move if I were Vaishali. And yeah, she plays knight to b3. Look at that. She wants to take this bishop off, and she can take it if she wants.
Yeah, it feels like a perfectly good position for white, where white is slightly better.
And she gives
but
up.
I just remember, I think that Vaishali, because she was leading when she was playing last match, she was leading in the 3+1, right? But then she lost against Dushanina in the bullet, I believe. So that's what I was trying to think about. So maybe she does prefer the 3+1 instead of the bullet games.
Yeah, and Ushanina happens to be a great bullet and blitz player, so there's no no shame in that defeat. But maybe the memories are a little sour based on that result. You're absolutely right. Her position here is very good, though. White is clearly better. You have two bishops. You have a better pawn structure because black pawns are doubled. This bishop is staring at the pawn on b6 through the knight on c5. White has an extra central pawn, so eventually you want to play f4 and f5 or e5. So king c7, she gives a check, and it goes back to e3. I think she did that just to see what Kasanik would do. She's not repeating moves here. There's no reason to.
Well, and I'm just trying to think, how would you place your pieces here? So I'm thinking, the h pawn might be a bit weak if you should play b3 here at some point. Or, well, rook e1, it's also perfectly.
Well, I like b3. It shuts down this bishop on e6, so your knight can free up. I actually really like that move. Knight d3 looks annoying, but I can just go rook e2, so it's not the end of the world. So that's what's happening. And a good question on this: what pieces do you want to trade? So if you're looking at this from Vaishali's perspective with the white pieces, like which would you like to trade? Like what are some of the pieces you want off the board?
Well, it's a really good question. I mean, yeah, that's a really good question. I'm not sure if you want to trade a knight and just play with the two bishops versus the bishop on the knight. I'm not sure if you want to do that, or if you want to trade rooks here, maybe actually, as you have the two bishops.
Honestly, I think all trades will still be good for white, but what I don't like right now is just happened is that black just sees the open file. So you
Yeah.
want to trade pieces, of course, where a bit well, free knight.
What?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I think that's maybe karma. I don't know, but let's go back to that old game real quick because on
Wow.
she just brought her knight to a square that it wasn't defended on. She could bring it
Yeah.
a3. She could do something else, but 95 she just simply forgot. So both players clearly forgetting, uh, where the pieces can go, and it happens in time trouble. So we have seen that a couple times now. Uh,
Absolutely. No, yeah.
Shocking.
But yeah, that's what we see here. I mean, 3+1, it definitely is happening quite a lot. And sometimes it's nice to see that the strongest players, they can do these mistakes too. It's part of chess.
Yeah, it happens in time trouble all the time.
Hmm.
So it's what happens, and you see that no matter who's playing. Magnus Carlsen blunders in time trouble, so it's not something that is new to anybody. It's what happens exactly, sort of in some ways, the point of a speed chess format. Who is going to be sharper? Who is going to avoid such mistakes? And it's one of those moves you make, and you're just like, whoa, oh my gosh, how could I do that? But
Just like Kastenik did. Absolutely.
yeah, and now this is the final game. So actually, Vaishali had time for one more 3-minute game because Kosteniuk gifted her a piece. And now the question is for Kosteniuk, well, how do you want to play this game? You have the white pieces. I would put my knight on f5. It's your favorite square.
I was
Uh,
just going to say that. I was just going to say that. Beautiful. I was going to say the whole maneuver. Look at that knight going to f5. And that's what I saw that she did. She was going to get it to f5. I love it.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And the knight comes to f5. Anna is happy, which means that the world is happy. And it's such a good piece there because it attacks g7, puts pressure on e7. It protects the center on d4. But I guess she's worried about her e4 pawn to some extent. I don't think it's going to be particularly weak. I certainly would bring this knight in.
Yeah, especially because, well, you can take on e7 now. Obviously, sometimes with knight f5, there could be some ideas with taking on e4 as that pawn is protecting the knight on f5. And then after rook takes on e4, grabbing the knight on f5. But we can see that in this position, it's not possible because the bishop on e7 can be taken first.
Although you take with the
Although
knight.
you can take with the knight. Wait a second.
Oh, that's
There we have
actually,
something.
yeah, we have to calculate that. And that's probably
Yep.
why she's refraining and when bishop a3, putting more pressure here. But it still was possible and still would have been good for white because you could just take on e5 at the end of that sequence. But still, you always have to be on alert for these tactics, as you were saying with knight takes e4, and things can get
Absolutely.
quite hectic.
I guess that soon white is going to try to grab a b file here too. Rook b1 maybe at some point could be an idea, putting some pressure on the b7 bishop.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
And yeah.
It's kind of just hard to think of ideas for black, which is why she traded knights in the center. When you have less space, it means that your pieces are stepping on each other's toes. So now her bishop on b7 looks better because her knight is no longer on c6, but her pawn on d6 looks worse because now it's isolated and there are a couple pieces aiming at it. Okay, knight g4.
So I guess the knight is going to e5. Oh, and the bishop is going to f6, even more importantly.
Yes, but rook a to b1, it kind of invites or entices white to make the move that you've been suggesting anyway. So it's rook a c1. I don't love that move nearly as much. I thought the rook belonged on b1, as you had pointed out.
Yeah, I guess that maybe she was a bit scared of the rook being able to enter the c file somehow, but it feels like the rook was quite active on b1 too. And it was telling the queen that it had to stay there.
I like it when pieces talk. Chess is a game played in silence, but the pieces speak to you, Anna, clearly. So and here's your knight f5.
Fischer say that he feels like his pieces talk and that he can talk to them.
Yeah, that we're not going to dive into Bobby's mental health history, but yeah. But queen takes d6. Now it's just an extra pawn for white. And is
there anything happening here? The evaluation bar just completely ran up.
Yeah, there have to be some tactics with like rook takes c8 because you have to take with the queen, and then knight e7 check forces everything off the board because your queen's under attack. And after knight e7, I take back here, f7, e5, back rank checkmates. Yeah, she finds it.
I was looking at knight h6 check.
Also good move.
But
and this bishop stops the queen from checkmating down c1. The knight on e5, only piece defending f7. Here you can just take, I think, either way on f7, play bishop b2. And then that's a sort of mating attack.
this is looking so good for white. Look at the time as well. You can really tell when Kosteniuk is confident in her position.
She moves quickly. She does. I mean, she now is a minute and a half. It goes with good opening preparation. It seems like Kosteniuk is the one who's much more comfortable out of the opening. And that's been true in most games.
Yeah, and that could be something with experience. She's played many different openings. She's played them a lot of times. And she knows the plans in all of them. So
yeah.
She's just, her bishops are so strong. Those two bishops completely dominating the king's position.
They certainly are. And two extra pawns, the two great bishops here. The one thing you can't do for Kosteniuk is allow Vaishali not just to hang around, but get some sort of counterplay. There's no counterplay right now. Queen attack the pawn h6. Bishop e6 is nice. I mean, she's moving all her pieces closer and closer to Vaishali's king. And now she can take on f6. And she's going to win a third pawn and completely shatter the king side.
Yeah, this just looks so good.
Make that a fourth pawn if you take on h6. So 4 extra pawns here. There has to be a checkmate at some point.
It really feels like there should be a checkmate here. With bishop h7. Oh, okay, maybe not.
So h5, h6, h7, h8. I think the pawn is safe to march. Oh, this is the smartest. Just trading queens off. You have so many extra pawns. Wait, if you take those, are a takes b5? Is that no? That can't work. The a6. But I was wondering, like, is there some fear that you give your opponent a pass pawn? But this also, I guess,
yeah, she's going with that one.
And you've e5 check because the bishop covers b1.
Exactly. So even if there was something like bishop d3, just play e5 check, as it's with check.
And Kosteniuk wins. So that means she ends the 3-minute time segment. She's up 2 games now for Vaishali. It's unfortunate, but Kosteniuk, she played an excellent game. You have to give credit to her. So Anna, any predictions before we take our break for the bullet segment?
I think that Kosteniuk, she's just playing so well. I think that Kosteniuk will win this match. Although I'm happy to see that it's been a pretty close match anyway. Vaishali has played some really good games, and unfortunately some of them have ended in a loss because there's been a blunder at the very end. But anyway, she's played really good chess, and I think it's going to be very exciting in the bullet games to see how the time control suits both players. So stick around, guys. It's going to be super exciting. 1 minute plus 1 very soon. And me and Robert will see you very soon.
We have exciting bullet ahead, but after that, we have the championship match of the first Grand Prix leg. It will be Valentina Gunina taking on Anna Ushanina. As you see there, their ratings stack up pretty well. I was Ushanina, the higher rated blitz player. She's been so impressive thus far, and Gunina, historically the higher rated in classical chess and in over the board chess. But online seems to be a totally different beast for Anna Ushanina, and she is so good at it.
Absolutely. It's going to be a very exciting match happening right after the bullet match here that we have between Vaishali and Alexandra Kosteniuk.
And Kosteniuk is up 2 points now. She is clearly the favorite based on how this match has been going. But if Vaishali wins this first game here, if she gets off to a hot start in the bullet, it changes so quickly. And we probably will see about 4 bullet games, I'd imagine. So Vaishali certainly has chances, and she starts here with the white pieces.
Absolutely. So not to think that Vaishali does not have any chances left, because she really does. It's 2 points, but as you said, it'll probably be 4 games of bullet. So it's going to be really exciting. And now we're going to start talking quickly because we got bullet time. So
we do indeed. And it looks like an opening that you learn as a kid, like these 4 knights opening. And we see a capture on D4. White will capture on D5 now. Knight takes D5. And that will trade everything off in the center. So this
and then you castle.
Yeah, I think it's okay for black, but white needs to play a little more quickly. That's what I'm thinking. Like, no matter what the opening is, in bullet, the most important thing is playing very, very quickly. Bishop E4 is a threat. So she castles queenside. And now we're on opposite sides of the board. So Anna, whose king is going to be safer here?
I'm going to say white's king is going to be safer, but both attacks could come very quickly. But I think white's king is going to be safer. I'm just looking at stuff like queen F3. Feels a bit annoying. Looking at B7. Not so easy to defend. I guess the queen will have to defend, but there could be some A3, some B4. Stuff like that. The bishop could get to F4 too. So I think that there could be some quick attack there. But we can see G5 immediately happening here. So both players are going to be very eager to attack as quickly as possible.
So she has queen F3 and attacking the pawn on B7 with check. So let's see. What is white going to do about this? Sorry, black. You C6. That move also looks a little bit risky just because I feel like there will be a sacrifice at some moment. A3 played. And I'm still looking out for these sacrifices. They don't work yet.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the first thing that comes to mind. When are you going to be able to sacrifice on C6?
And you have to play queen G3 here because otherwise F5 traps the bishop on E4. She does it. Queen to G3 gives her bishop space. And now she can trade queens, bring her bishop back to F3. So she's by moving her queen out the way, she was able to protect her piece.
We can see that now white's pieces feel like they're a little bit cramped. Okay, rook E1 is a nice move.
But white's pieces are definitely cramped, and G4 only makes them more cramped than they were before.
Bishop F1, H5. You know what I said that white's attack was going to be quicker? I might take that back now. Black's attack was very quick.
Oh, I knew what you meant. I knew you were predicting this the whole time. And even if it's not a checkmate, right? Now white's king's in a permanent box. You just can't move.
Yeah. Now, positionally, it feels really bad to have that king there.
If I'm Vaishali, like that forever. I might resign because you need to save time on the match clock, and your position is so bad here that it could almost be worth resignation.
Actually, you're absolutely right. I'm not sure she is going to do that, though. Do you think she will think about it?
No. You're so in the moment of the game that she's not removed like we are. I'm like, oh, wait, I look at the clock. There's 7 minutes left. She needs to score 3 points now after she loses this game. That it's easy for me to say that. For her to be in that mindset, you're playing to win. You're playing to hold. You don't want to lose a game. So she's going to try her best here. But now it's just rook E1. Oh, Bishop G2 coming next.
Bishop G2. Now might be the time to resign. Yeah.
And that was an extra about 45 seconds, a minute. I wasn't counting, but a lot of time passed. And so,
6.5 minutes. Not a lot of time left. It took quite a lot of time, that first game of bullet.
Yes. And the eval bar is jumping, but it's doing this craziness thing. Just, I guess when the moves happen so quickly, it just jumps around, even though it's not Now it's accurately capturing the position. It's about slightly better for white.
Yeah. Well, it feels like now, Michelle, she's just really going to have to, she's trying to play quickly and she's really trying to create something. She's trying to win quickly because that's what she needs to do. Look at that, H5, trying to play H4.
So,
but it might be a bit too much, but that's maybe what she needs to do when she needs to win 3 games.
You have to play F5 here. Excuse me, you're right. You need to kind of go all in. A draw actually probably loses.
What?
She just mouse slipped. She mouse slipped. She meant Queen G4 for sure. She just went too far.
Yeah, she's gonna play Queen G4.
Oh.
Really tough. Really tough. Feels like it should pretty much be decided now that Kosteniuk is gonna win, but we'll see what happens in the last few games. But that's so sad. It's so sad always when there's a mouse slip in these type of games. Definitely. But she obviously meant Queen G4 there.
Yeah, and even for the side that's leading the match, you often feel bad when you win a game like that. Of course, Kosteniuk has been playing excellently throughout this whole thing. But then towards the end, you're like, oh, there's about to be a potential comeback. It's decided like that. And now everything's going wrong for Shelley. Bishop G4 won the exchange here. And so, taking on D4, everything is collapsing. She's mentally already she's already lost the match because mathematically she doesn't have enough time to come back. But I also think mentally she's just like, these last few games, there's nothing I can do. I'm out of this one.
Yeah. A bit like when Kosteniuk played against Kunina the other day, the last few matches, it felt like, Kosteniuk just felt like she'd already lost a match and everything was going against her.
Right.
So we can see a similar thing here now, but absolutely so tough these last few games.
So, this is just a moment for Vaishali. What I'm very impressed by her. She qualified. Oh, wait.
Ooh.
Is Rook takes D1 about to happen? It is. Rook takes D1. And then Knight F2 check, no matter if the Queen or the Rook takes.
Well, there's going to be a bunch of exchanges there.
And Black's only up 1 pawn. After all that, I thought Black was up more.
I thought so too, but it's just a pawn. But still, it's just a great position for Black with the bishop. Now another pawn. The A3 pawn, the B4 pawn could be weak.
Yeah.
But okay, she's pushing them to light squares, I guess.
Yeah, this pin is annoying. It's hard to make use of it because the king comes to E6. You have Knight F4 check. That's why I should probably bishop to E5. The king will come to E4 though, as a way of just keeping the knight on D5. But what I was going to say is Vaishali's been very impressive, and I don't think most people expected her to even get this far. She will take home quite a deal of Grand Prix points. She'll have a chance going forward. And for Kosteniuk, this is huge because Kosteniuk is one of those players, along with Yifan, Ju Wenjun, Lock No. She's kind of just outside of that top tier, I want to say, although her online skills are clearly awesome, and those other players were eliminated, like Humpy and Lock No were eliminated. And Ju Wenjun all kicked out of this bracket. So I think before the event, I would have said those 3 were the favorite. Now I'm not sure because Gunina and Ushanina and they can all clearly play and play at extremely high level.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. Once again, this speed chess tournaments, it's so much about the speed. Even the tournament name says it. And it really is true. It's so much about it. So sometimes we could see that Lagna got eliminated in the beginning, as we could see. We thought that she was a favorite on paper for this championship. So we can really see how important it is to have those online skills, not only in speed, but also with the mouse slips to have control. So absolutely. And that's something fun with this tournament too, that it's a bit different in that way. It gives a chance to people who maybe are, in FIDE ratings are not as high rated as the other ones to have a chance here of beating them. So right. I think it's really cool in that sense.
I'm with you. And what's happening here in this endgame, I kind of stopped looking for a second, but it looks like is Black queening with check, but it's protected on A8. But this knight on B6 is the one I'm worried about. She was knight to D5. That was smart. King B7. Okay, now Queen G8 check. Actually, this is starting to turn around, but it's taking a lot of time.
Yeah. Taking a lot of time. Feels like it should end pretty soon in the next minute because we only got 50 more seconds of this 1+1 or of this whole match actually. But we'll see. There's check on F4.
Yeah, the knight's, luckily for Castano, the knight is pinned for now, but now everything's protected. The square's under control, and here comes a new queen. That's the idea. Ooh, okay, that's a good move. King c8 and knight c7. You block. The knight is an amazing block any piece. So she didn't do it, but king a7. The knight in general is such a good piece to defend your king.
I thought she lost on time there.
It's getting close. She's barely
getting
escaping.
Very close.
Oof. Okay, now there's knight f4 check, and then win the queen. Okay, queen f3. She walks into a check herself. Oh my gosh, and then a return check. That was actually really clever.
Wow.
And time is up, if I'm not mistaken. This game has been canceled. So, wow. That was actually really crazy. I thought that she was actually making a mistake. She could have won knight f4 to win the queen, but this also wins because after here, knight f4 check, the king is nowhere good to go, and this pawn is about to go promote. And so here you get checkmated. Here you get checked. Here, and you get checked again, and I still win your queen. So she was just playing quickly in the bullet. That is match over. Alexandra Castano gets third place. Anna, you and I will be right back after a brief break because we need to get set up for the championship match. Stay tuned, everybody. There is Ushanina versus Gunina when we return in just a few minutes. And we return. We have the championship match just about to get underway. We have Valentina Gunina taking on Anna Ushanina here, the battle of the Ninas, if you will. And so on chess.com, Anna Ushanina has the higher blitz rating, and then Valentina Gunina has slightly higher bullet rating. And as you see, they're over the board, classical, rapid, and blitz. All of those are in Gunina's favor. So Anna, there's a difference here clearly between over the board and here on chess.com. Who is the favorite, in your opinion, between these two stellar players?
Obviously, both players have showed tremendous good play these past few days. We've seen Ushanina. She took on Vaishali the other day, played really well, very solid, just amazing chess. And then we have Gunina, who I think is the favorite here, but that's just my personal opinion. I know that you're going to say the opposite now, Robert, but I just think that Gunina played so well the other day when she played against Kosteniuk. So good chess. She was just completely outplaying Kosteniuk, it felt like. So I think that Gunina is really getting her play this tournament, these last few rounds. It really feels that way. But we'll see, because Gunina is a sort of player where it either goes really well or it doesn't go well. So we'll see how this match starts.
And all Gunina asked for when we interviewed her the other day was a break. She had a break yesterday, the day off. She's said she was going to prepare, and I guess it's good for her to be able to relax. She's been all 6 of the qualifiers. That was 6 days in a row for about 3.5 hours, and then she has played 3 matches thus far, and now is in the fourth and the final one. So here we have a typical Anna Ushanina opening. Very solid. You see no weaknesses to exploit. Gunina trades off the light square bishops, now has a knight a bit awkwardly placed in a6, goes back to c7. So when you see an opening like this and you know these two players, Anna, who do you think this opening favors?
I think this would favor Anu Shanina. I think that it looks like a very solid position, quite positional. She's trying to play a4, stopping any b5, and she has this b2, c3, d4 little chain here. I guess that black wants to play e5 at some point, but it's not possible now. The d6 pawn is a bit weak. But I think that this is a sort of play that Ushanina likes more than Gunina so far. But it can turn around.
I would completely agree with you, because it's more like you often hear chess being described as like there's tactical players and there are positional players, and obviously chess is a combination of both of those things. It's not just one or the other, and both of these players are capable of doing both. The first thing I'll say about Gunina is she's up and has nearly the entire starting time. She's playing very quickly, so that's a good sign for her. I would say the downside is that White's position is now much better, because you see this bishop on e7, which means that d5 can be played when the knight moves out the way. And even if I don't play d5, I have more space thanks to 3 of my pawns being on the 4th rank. And after your knight moves, let's say it goes back to f6, I mean, you just don't have pieces in play for black. You're just much more passive, especially this knight on c7.
Absolutely. So I think that it sort of also shows that maybe Gunina is not as comfortable in this position. One can see how White is getting a lot of space. D5, E7 bishop is hanging there. So
you have to probably
just looking good.
The good news for Gunina, though, is that the knight on b4 can't be kicked out. We've talked about how when pawns move, you give them outposts, and this knight on b4 is actually quite an annoying piece, already threatening knight to c2, which Ushanina will not allow. But knight to c2 is a threat. I can play a5 if I need to keep this knight defended, and it stops any piece from going to d5 so easily. I like this knight on b4.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that happen when you play a4, that you can never play a3 again. You really want sometimes to be able to take a step back with that pawn, but you can't. The pawn is on a4, and the b4 knight is not going to be able to be moved by a pawn.
It's very true. And this pawn on c4, pawn a4, they can actually be targets, because rook a to d1 was a natural looking move, but the a4 pawn was under attack. So she plays knight to c3. And all right, you still have the d5 square under your control, so you don't have to be worried about that. She plays rook to e8. She wants to slide her bishop back to f8, I assume, at some point. But knight d5 would be such an annoying move. Thankfully, you have this brilliant knight on b4 covering the square.
Absolutely. And the problem here for black, I guess, though, is that the d6 pawn is very weak. And it's probably going to remain weak for quite some time, as d5 is a very difficult move to make now that the c4 pawn is there. And the knight is also controlling, knight on c3 is also controlling the d5 square. Right. So that's something that I guess that's why Ushanina wants to exchange queens as well, because she just wants to keep pressuring the pawn on d6.
She does, although I like the look of black's pieces much more now. I was talking earlier,
that's true,
right? How black's pieces didn't have life. Now both knights are out here. This one can come to d3. This pawn on a4 will need a defender. This knight on b4 is also protecting d5, threatening to jump in at some point. So I think that Gunina has to be happy with how this game has continued, but I still prefer Ushanina's position, because you have control over the e file. This pawn d6 is a backwards pawn. So I think we both like White's position here, but we acknowledge that it looks better for black than it did earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. Those two knights, the knight on c5 and knight on b4, they're having great squares there. And I think that Gunina, she really likes to have active pieces. I think this is going to be good play for her to be able to play with those knights.
So let's try to think of what Gunina can do from a plan point of view, because White can play rook to d2. She does it to attack d6 right away. I'm trying to figure out, is black just going to sit tight and be sort of passive but okay? Or are there moments where you can even say, oh, I'll play d5 and give you a pawn, or I'll play b5? I think she has to sit and do nothing.
You think that this is one of those times, yeah?
Yeah, sadly, I don't like playing positions like this. But another idea is g6, bishop g7 at the right time, trying to come for the long diagonal, in particular this knight at c3. Not out of the question.
Is there any way of sacrificing that pawn on d6 in a way to get your pieces very active? That's what I'm trying to think about. Maybe with the idea you said with g6 and bishop g7 at some point, if you have the chance. But problem is that the a6 and b6 pawns could also become weak at some point, it feels like.
Right. I didn't love g5 compared to g6. Something about this pawn being here and the fact that you love a knight on f5 wants me to put this pawn back on g6 just to cover the square. But Gunina, very active player. She plays g5 and she's giving up this pawn on d6 from the rook's protection, but the bishop was moved off, so you can't take it. So now the bishop can't come to g7, but Anna, there's the knight.
I see it.
There's the f5
Robert.
square. Oh gosh, Black's best move is g5 to g6. That's Black's best move here.
Yeah.
But it won't let me do it.
Totally agree.
Can't do it.
No. And now the bishop on f8 is just going to be a very sad bishop if the knight is on f5, controlling, well, firstly, attacking the pawn in d6, but also just controlling the bishop. Bishop cannot go to g7 or e7 without it being exchanged for the knight, and then the dark squares will be very, very weak for black.
Yeah, this isn't good. And you know what happened there when Gunina played g5? I think she went for something that she felt gave her a tempo, because when she played g5, there was a bishop on f4 and she attacked it, but it actually hurts her position more than helps. She gains something in the immediate position, but for the rest of the game, she's going to suffer the consequences of it because of this f5 square.
Absolutely. And that's, it feels like a Gunina thing, to always try to be active after every single move, just do something. But as you said before, maybe it was just better to not do so much in the position.
Yeah, this is one of those situations you really regret your choice to be all active. And Gunina's style is to play actively. She wants to do things like that. But here we see the position. It just looks like Black's on the verge of collapse. Even knight f3 here, hitting the rook, hitting the g5 pawn. If you want to go back and win a pawn, she goes king g2 because she wants to get her knight into f5. Anna, this looks so pleasant for the other Anna, Ushanina.
It definitely does. I think that Ushanina got everything she wanted out of this game. And I just think that Gunina was not really comfortable with the position that she had. Now knight f5, the pawn is hanging on d6. It feels like maybe it's not going to be lost immediately, or maybe it is. It actually is.
Yeah,
there's so many pawns hanging. The g5 pawn is hanging too. The c4 pawn is hanging. The g4 pawn is hanging. To be honest, there are a lot of pawns hanging here. I didn't realize that there were 4 pawns hanging here.
Too many. And actually, this is complications that Ushanina probably didn't want to see happen. But I think you can just play. I don't know, actually. Now, I don't know which pawn I want to give up. I don't want to give up c4. I think she gives that one up. I did not want to lose that one. Okay, I think you can take on d6, and then after rook takes play knight c6 maybe to attack a4 to try to go knight e5 check. Like, you have chances here for Black. She's going to do something like this. She was knight c2. Similar idea. Getting the knight active, hitting the bishop, hitting the pawn a4. Oof. Tough situation.
It's very tough, but it does feel like it's maybe a bit better than before, perhaps. Feels like now at least the pieces are a little bit active. The black rook is active here, attacking a4, but at the same time it feels tough. But yeah, bishop takes g5. But yeah, the king is also so unsafe on h7. It feels like.
Right, I'm looking at some kind of bishop f6, rook b8, a sort of checkmate over here. But this knight is coming back to e6, so it's actually going to help the king survive. And it's only one extra pawn for white, so that also gives Black chances. And these pawns are on light squares, which means the bishop can never actually attack the pawns, so you can only attack them with your rook.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. Maybe it's not so clear, actually. And Gunina has 30 more seconds than Ushanina. From what I remember, Gunina seemed to really enjoy the 3+1 time control. That was her best time control against Kostyuk. And her worst one was the 5+1. So if she can get through the 5+1 time control with decent results, then it feels like it might be tough. it might be tough for Ushanina because she's very, very quick, Ganina.
She certainly is. And right now, Ushina has 25 seconds,
Yeah.
and Gunina has a minute. So this is a tricky position because knights, we talk about them every single time, like knight d5 hits the rook, hits the bishop. But after knight to d5, you can play rook to d6, which saves your rook, keeps the bishop defended. And the g4 pawn is under attack. So at what point I might just steal that pawn? She steals it right now. And that's a really good decision. So
yeah,
good move by Ushina. So this pawn on b2 wants to start pushing, but Gunina's not going to allow that to happen so easily. Check.
And once again, we could see a fork or something any moment because, like Robert has said a lot of times, the knights are tricky, and the knights are very, very, very tricky with little time.
They certainly
can go
are.
to a lot of places.
This passed pawn, though, is not so tricky.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem. That's the good thing, I guess, for Ushanina.
Rook takes f2. Take on f2. That's a smart move. Give up the knight, take the pawn. Because Gunina lost this to Kostenyuk. Rook and bishop and pawn versus rook. She actually said that in her post-match interview. She was very upset with herself about it. This is a draw objectively by best play for black. It's a draw. Practically, it's a freaking nightmare to defend because these pieces team up so well against a king. Watch out for rook g1 check. f6 was very smart. Really good move there.
Get the king to that f7 square there.
It's safe here. You can just start giving the king some checks. So this is going to be a very long game. It's already been long. It's almost 12 minutes. But this is going to continue for another, I want to say, 70 moves. 70 moves.
Wow, 70 moves. And in minutes, how many minutes is that? Is that going to be 5 minutes, you think? 6 minutes?
So 70 moves. No, it's another 2+ minutes.
Oh, yeah. Typically 70 moves take a lot of time, but obviously this time control does not allow that.
And the point is that there is a 50 move rule in chess where the 50 moves are made without a pawn move or a capture. The game is officially a draw. So the last pawn move or last capture was whenever black went f6. I don't even see what move. That was move 56, and we're on move 75. So we're 20 moves in. Eventually, white will bring the king to d6 right now. Bishop to d4, try to pile up pressure on this pawn on f6. But as soon as the bishop gets to d4, black will play rook to d2 to pin it. So now another moment, check. King has to go back over here. The king could have went to f8. King d6. She needs to attack this pawn on f6 somehow. I don't know how she's going to accomplish it, though. Gunina's defense has been stellar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Aha. She attacked it, but rook a6 protects it. So king, don't push the f pawn.
She's defending really well, though, Gunina.
Yeah, actually pretty much perfectly.
Yeah.
Bishop d4, rook a6. So there's no way to actually pile up the pressure you'd want to on this pawn. And Gunina, I mean, she really is playing kind of a perfect defense. She made her life easy, or easier, I should say, when she would have pawned f6. But she's doing everything perfectly now. Rook check, keep checking. The king should go to f8. Like the white king should try to go e7 to f8. And wow, this game has already been 14 minutes. 50 move roll. Draw.
That was so clever of Gunina to not allow that b pawn to push and to instead give the piece. So clever.
Yeah, and I think most people would refrain from giving up a minor piece for just a couple pawns. But Gunina knew that the ensuing endgame was theoretically drawn. I mean, if she plays her best, which she often does, she is holding the game, and that's why she was able to save that one. So now we have a queen's gambit accepted. Black has been very committal on the queen side, and this pawn on b4 means that here comes the knight into a square like c4, into b3, putting pressure on black's queen side. So I typically like these positions from the white side, but what do you make of this early position?
I typically like these positions for white too. Here we have, the famous e5 there. Before I play this with white actually, so I really like this as white. But obviously black does have a lot of play with the bishop on b7, taking control of the diagonal. The two knights in the center. So it feels like black's pieces are moving a lot, but white's pieces are doing so too. So it's a very complex opening, I feel like.
It
And it's a
really
very
is.
dynamic one as well.
I'm with you there because the black wants to develop this bishop, but couldn't have done so without giving up the d6 square before. Now bishop e7 is possible, but you always
Mm.
have to think what happens when white simply regains his pawn on d4. And look at the tension. These knights on the C and D files, these bishops on d3 and d2. It looks like white is just a little bit more active because the bishop on e7 is the one piece that isn't actually like threatening the enemy's position, but at the same time, like if black gets a quick move and this bishop on b7 opens up, you could see some swift counterplay.
There's a lot of potential for attack both sides, I think.
I agree. I typically think that white's attack is more natural just because of, you can go queen to, at some point, get your queen and bishop in a line here. Can't do that now. Queen g4 also, attacking this pawn.
Yeah.
The bishops are so strong here.
Especially when white has the pawn on e5 and because it becomes much more difficult for the knight to the knights to defend then, because typically the knight wants to be on f6 to defend the king side, but now we can see that with the pawn on e5 that's not possible. So the pawn on e5 can really be disturbing. Yeah, I'm so scared always when my opponent gets a pawn on e5 and starts to attack my king. I've literally stopped playing openings that allow that because I just feel like the attack can become so strong.
Yes, and queen g6, very smart decision because she could have taken en passant, right? E takes f6 is a possibility, but then the knight comes back to f6. You were saying how the knight's a very good defender there. She's now threatening bishop takes h6. If this knight gets kicked off of c5 somehow, the e6 pawn is in trouble as well. So at the very least, bishop takes h6 should result in a draw if king goes to h8 and we start getting a perpetual check, right? Queen h6, queen g6, etc. But I'm thinking as well, is bishop g5 possible? Because e6 already, I don't know why I said the knight needs to be kicked off c5. It's actually already under attack.
Yeah. No, I like this for Ganina. And this, in comparison to the other game, feels like much more her type of play and what she's seeking for in a game.
It certainly is because she loves active play with tactical possibilities. She doesn't like sitting and just kind of waiting for that. Actually, wait, is knight f4 move here too? She just played it. I was just asked the question because rook takes d4, and now rook g4 is coming if bishop takes h6.
Such a nice move. Knight f4. Wow.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, and she played it, and I was like, oh, wait, I think I spoke too soon about the advantage because rook coming to g4 is that to be kind of painful.
Very painful, actually. Yeah, you cannot take on h6 anymore, right? Because then just rook g4 and it seems like you're losing the bishop.
So what do I do here? How do I even protect it? I don't, maybe bishop g3, but that feels weird. It's funny how you just one little tactic like that turns the game around completely.
I'm not sure. Do you want to play bishop? Yeah, but once again, if bishop e3 or g3, okay, she's not allowing the rook to go to g4, but that bishop on b7.
Yeah, this looks problematic. And there may be just queen c6 here because you have to go f3, and then I even have knight to b3 because your rook's under attack, your knight's now under attack twice. Something like this is possible. I think that this position is probably just very strong for black now. But you have to be precise because white doesn't have a minute on the clock. It's not like black's king is the safest king either. So well done by Ushinina thus far, but she needs to continue. She can't just be happy about her one little knight f4 tactic. You need to keep this up. Queen d7.
Very, very good defense there, though. Very, very good defense that she was able to find a tactical move, which it's just a great way of defending with some attack herself as well. I think that's what's great, that you don't always need to defend just by defending, but you can do a tactical move yourself, which makes your pieces more active as well at the same time as you're defending.
And that's actually what Kunina did. You're 100% correct. She went knight d6, and what is that defending? Well, queen d5 was devastating, checkmate, and the knight's hanging. So she plays knight d6 to attack this bishop to stop the queen from getting onto the diagonal. And if you go there, I'll take your bishop. Thank you. Your knight's under attack. If you take on d6, I take with my pawn, which gives me a more advanced pawn, a pass pawn there, the e5 square for my bishop. Oh, and so that could be a big issue.
Yeah,
And
and what would happen there? Can you take, and play queen c6? But then I guess that you just play f3.
right, you play f3.
Yeah.
Um, hmm. So it looks like
We're gonna see how this turns out, but I think that Shania's played great chess here, great defensive. Queen c6 there. And she's
whoa.
taking on f4. She's sacrificing there.
Yeah, because she wants to take on d6. She was worried about this passed pawn, and she still has a strong bishop. She still has pressure on the f4 pawn. The knight on c5 is still good. It's defending. I'm thinking about at some point a counter sacrifice of rook takes c5 to win e6, but not yet because you take on c5 with check. So that wouldn't actually accomplish what I wanted to.
Yeah. Do you think that this exchange sacrifice was good?
I think so, yes. I think from a practical point of view, it makes Black's life a lot easier. The king on g1 will never find true safety. Rook f6, king h7, rook g6, another idea for Black. So I think the pieces are very nice.
Yeah, it feels like it's going to be the other way around now. Now it's going to be Black who's going to start attacking the white king. I feel like white was really, really going for the attack there before, really trying to set their pieces up in a good way to attack. But now it's going to be the other way around. But you know what? I think Agunina is not going to stop attacking because she wants to put the rook on g2, put some pressure on g7. So she's not going to stop, I don't think.
Zero surprise if you tell me that Gunina is not going to stop attacking. She's also up, a minute and a half on the clock. That's a big time advantage with both sides having potentially weak kings. So queen g6 threatens the h6 pawn as this is pinned. But what about queen takes f4? Can you just steal this pawn? Yeah, that's the problem when you go all in for an attack. You sometimes forget that a pawn like that one is under attack, and the queen now protects h6. That was a very important pawn.
Yeah, absolutely. And how many pawns? Yeah, Black has 2 pawns for the exchange. So
3 pawns.
3. Sorry, I cannot count. Yeah, 3 pawns. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, now you can trade queens, and the end game is favorable because you have 3 pawns for the exchange.
Yeah. 3 pawns for the exchange. This is what happens when I don't do the little counting in my head. I typically do, when I'm counting every single pawn like this. I didn't do that. I skipped it because I thought it was going to look better, but no. There was a pawn missing.
And
those pawns inside.
If I'm Gunina, I'm just playing quickly at this point. Like your position is bad, it's bad. Play rook f2, play king to d4, something like that. Probably doesn't actually even work out. That's the shame here.
Yeah. I guess she just wants to pressure her opponent, but it looks so tough here. Pawn on a4 is hanging.
That was a good move. That was a really good move. And so the bishop comes to b3 to protect. That's a good response. Because if the rook went to a7, then the white king would have jumped into c5. And this pawn on b4 requires defense, and now you have knight d5 check. So it's like rook to d2, rook to d4. You come after the b4 pawn, but the knight will come to d5.
She's doing it anyway, but there we have the power of the minor pieces. Rook c5, it's attacking the bishop. The bishop is going to go back. And now knight d5. All of Black's pieces are just working absolutely amazingly. Super active. The king is going to get active now too. And so tough to play. So tough to play as white.
By so tough, you mean absolutely miserable? I agree with that. It's just you've no space for anything. Bishop a6. She's trying to go bishop b7 maybe, like bishop b7, take this knight, play rook d4, try to get this pawn, but even that, oh gosh, knight came to f4.
There's so many, and the pawns are just the pawn on b2, f3, h2. Not really doing a lot. It would be better if maybe there's a pawn in g3, perhaps kick the knight out. But yeah, just great pieces.
You love knights on f5, but this knight on f4 is essentially a knight on f5 just for Black instead of white.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. I mean, if I could get a dream position, this would be it, I think.
It's very easy for Black to play. And so you need to do something for white. We keep talking this. You need some kind of strategy. Otherwise, you're just going to lose this game. She was rook d4, hoping to attack this knight and then get to the b4 pawn. But king e5 here, even. This is shuffling and nothing else from Gudina's point of view.
Absolutely. I think that she's at least, she's trying to play quickly, but we can already see that her time has gone down because she doesn't really know what to do.
Yeah, rook b4, there's knight d5 check. That's why we saw a trade out here. Maybe bishop c4. Somehow you need to get after this a pawn. I don't want to allow a2 and for it to be protected there. So she plays bishop c4. You can just, there's e5. There's tactics there, but this is just simple. And now rook a3, knight d3 check, if king f2, and then knight to b4.
Yeah, so and it's controlling.
And then rook b2, you have rook a4. Just making sure your knight doesn't have to move. Okay, rook c4, rook b3, now here comes rook to b1. Ouch.
Yeah, it's just losing. Oh no, she's gonna... Yeah, so she's gonna play 4 versus 2. Do you think this is good, or do you think she should just try to get one last 5+1 game in?
She's getting the one last one regardless, so it's smart to play on. I had to look though. I didn't see how much time. It was like 3 minutes and 37 seconds. So she might as well play on, but it's losing. That's a good move. That ends the game on the spot.
Well,
actually, wait. As soon as they start a new game, I'm coming back here for a second. If you took with the king and black made his bad move, rook takes f3, after rook f3, king f3, that's stalemate. So after you have your h3 check, there was some chance for black to hold, but you instead of rook takes f3, you played king h3, played g4 check. The pawn is pinned, then you take on f3 and you win the game. So just be alert for stalemates. And we have a repetition of the earlier game, the first game here, where Gunina traded the bishop on the light squares. So clearly this is her opening preparation.
Well, I think once again, though, that Gunina is going to do the bigger comeback in the 3+1 games. I really do think that that's her time control. We could see it in the other matches too, versus Ju and June, versus Kosteniuk the other day. So I think that, I think that she's going to be able to do a comeback then because she plays so quickly. But yeah, she's just 1 point down though. But Ushanina is playing really well. I thought that defense there, that knight f4 was just absolutely beautiful that she did in the other game.
It certainly was. And Gunina is ahead on the clock as per usual. So I think it's part of why we both think that she should be the favorite in the 3+1. But Ushanina is probably playing some of her most accurate chess. It really feels like she's in the driver's seat in these first 2 games with the black pieces, with the white pieces. She's playing very well. And Gunina survived the first game with that timely knight sacrifice for a couple pawns, but it's sort of a similar development here. White has more space. This knight on a6 is pretty awkward. And from Gunina's point of view, she likes positions with tactical possibilities where pieces are flying. Here it's very subdued position. Her bishop on e7 can't really go anywhere. Knight on a6 goes back to c7. That's a safe square. I would look at b5 to give myself the d5 square. That's actually a very interesting move to sacrifice a pawn to free up the d5 square. Because if you play d5, I play c5, and then my knights would like to take my own pawn on d5. So that's why I'm looking at b5. She was queen d7 for that purpose. I think a4 for white makes sense. Push all your pawns.
Yeah, I really like that move that you said, b5. Just giving a pawn to get a big square for your pieces. I think that was a really nice move. And now white can stop it with a4. So maybe it's not any possible anymore. But I thought that was a great move. And the pawn on b5 would regardless have been quite weak, the white pawn. So perhaps black would have been able to take it back later.
Yeah, and I think that in many games, Gunina would have played b5, but coming after a loss, she may be more cautious because you lose a game and you're like, whoa. All right, let's calm down. It's only 1 point. We don't need to go crazy. We don't need to make all these really committal moves. But then you have a position like this, and look at White's 4 pawns here. Just have so much space.
So much space. It feels like Gunina is really getting, I don't know, is it the opening choices, you think, that are being a problem here?
Yeah, I think Anna Ushanina is playing brilliant opening choices against Gunina. Well, especially with White. This whole London system, where you just can't get activity is so smart to play against something like Gunina, who loves to have her pieces out in the open.
Absolutely. I think that she's being so clever. Shania is being so clever about her opening choices. And she's really thinking about who she's playing against and just trying to play openings and positions that she thinks Gunina will not be as comfortable with.
For sure. And speaking of comfortable, these four pawns are comfortable in the fourth rank. Black doesn't have a single piece past her own third rank, the sixth rank. So it just, for me, I hate lacking space. These positions would be very uncomfortable. But perhaps Gunina figures that even if she has less space, there are no clear weaknesses, no tactics for white either. And maybe she'll strike back with e5 at the right moment.
Yeah. I guess that e5 is the idea at some point to strike back there. Because if you play something like d5, then c5 is very strong. So e5 seems to be the move that you want to play if you can. But knight h4. So your bishop e3.
Just what a smart retreat, right? You can't play e5. I have now three pieces, excuse me, attacking with two defenses with f5. A very Gunina decision, right? To play aggressively. I don't mind it at all. I think g5, bishop g7, it makes sense to get some play here. And well, Ushanitas is b5. I'm going to play a5 and open up the queen side.
So we're really gonna see a race here. Gunina is gonna be playing on the king side. Ushanina seems to be playing on the queen side. And I guess that's what they do. You know, you gotta counter attack somewhere if you're getting attacked on one part of the board.
I think sadly the opening of the queen side happens way more quickly, so Gunina
Yeah.
is not going to be happy with these consequences. This is the final game of the 5 minute plus 1 second increment. Like for example, Queen f7. What did that accomplish? What's next? I know what's next for white. A takes B, Rook a7, things like that. I just don't see concretely how Black continues whatever initiative she's trying to build.
Absolutely. No, I really agree with you. It's so quick, that queenside attack. The rook is getting to a7, pinning the knight. Pawns on b6 and d6 could become weak, especially that pawn on b6 seems to be very weak.
And I do like
Yeah.
knight e4. That's a good move, just advancing your position some. White can
Yeah.
play knight to d2 to trade off either knight to d2 to trade off the best piece in the position from Black's perspective. So she plays c5. She wants to break through
c5.
b6. The knight's pinned. I'm not sure about that move though. It's probably good. It's probably good. I think actually you're just pushing through so quickly that I'm going to move my queen away from f7 if I am Gunina, but then I take on b6 and then I have a really advanced past b pawn.
That's such a nice move, c5, actually. Such a nice move, taking immediate advantage of the fact that there's a pin. There. So it just feels like Ushanina is dominating the position.
She is. I think that maybe f4 just as like a kind of desperate type of move to get my queen to f5 square. At some point you'll take on c5, but maybe you could play f4 and then take on c5. She plays rook to a8. And her point is that if c takes b6, rook a7, b7, knight takes b5, and I'm going to win your a pawn. So that would be a rushed decision by Gunina to take on b6 too soon. So she takes an a8 first. And now what? If c takes b, there's knight to d5. This bishop on e3 is not helping, and this pawn on b6 is now under attack.
Oh, maybe this was a good choice to play this.
I think so.
Yeah. Can you play rook c6?
And then maybe queen b7, rook to b, rook queen b7. Yeah, I like rook c6 though. It's actually quite an annoying move to deal with because you probably have to slide the queen over to b7.
But you might have at some point knight a5 if the rook decides to go somewhere.
Exactly what I was thinking. And so queen on b7, even though it would attack the b6 pawn, there's knight a5 ideas as you were mentioning. Instead, we see this trade. So white still has this outside b pawn, which is good in the future. But for now, black has kind of closed everything up, and now the bishop on f8 can finally hope to get into play.
B pawn though. B pawn. The B pawn seems to be able to become very strong here, very soon. So we're gonna have to see how strong that B pawn becomes. But I guess that's one of the big problems with Black's position. That White has that passed pawn there, and White is gonna do everything to keep control of that pawn. Queen A4, defending that pawn. White is getting their pieces together on the queen side, on the A file and the C file. So Black really needs to do something. And now Black is, or Gunina is trying to open up the center.
Yeah, his E5 move is a good, somewhat desperate move, but just good practically because you have this pawn on D5. You'd love to push this to D4. Like you would want to advance your pawns. But this bishop on E3, knight B3, queen. I mean, White's pieces are perfectly coordinated.
Absolutely. And that's one of the problems here. Queen A6, attacking the knight. It just really feels like Black's. But knight C4, okay, knight C4, quite a good square for the knight.
White wants to play B6, B7, Rook C8. Like somehow get that to work. But for now, Black's pieces at least are cutting off the pawn. B6 walks into Queen B7, trying to trade queens because then eventually I will get your B6 pawn, something like that. So it's not so easy to accomplish for Ushanina.
Absolutely. And I'm wondering, I guess that maybe White does want to stay like this, but I was wondering if White was going to take on E5 now, just to prevent knight takes E3.
Well, she does it and plays rook to C8. That's annoying. If you trade rooks, then B6, B7, B8 seems quite likely, but she didn't really have too much of a choice. And now what? Because how do you stop this pawn running?
That's an incredible question. And you know, when the queen is on C8, there's a B pawn that's moving. It's tough. It's tough.
She wants to go bishop D6, I think.
Yeah.
And like stop the pawn a little bit. Knight C4. And okay, now the pawn's actually stopped because B6 is under Black's control. So I didn't love knight D4. She could have pushed the pawn. Instead, she played this one.
No, she's exchanging.
But this doesn't feel right.
It feels like Black does not feel right.
Black is probably in time. Like king. Okay, actually, you don't have king F7 maybe, and then B6. So she takes an E3, but knight. I don't know how I feel about this. I think I'm feeling a little bit negatively. H5, well done. Now you take on G4.
Yeah, nice move. Cannot take because the knight was hanging.
And wait a second. Black's about to go king G5, king takes G4.
It feels like Black is pressuring now.
Yes, knight of D4 now. You have to take an E4, and D takes E3. Black can never lose this unless you blunder your bishop somehow. But knight F6. Okay, she's going to go knight C4, king F4. And then bishop. Bishop has nowhere good to go. Bishop C5, there's B6. I think you should just take on B6 and you make a draw. That's what she's doing. She offered a draw. They agreed. Oh, that was a close one, though.
That was a very close one. I felt like Ushanina really, really had a better position there, but maybe it wasn't good to exchange all those pieces at the end. It felt like.
Yeah, and she had a moment here. She went knight to D4, and that was just a bit too slow because once the queens were traded, it seemed like Gunina was able to handle this. I think she should have started with B6, just try to push this pawn through here. And I'm not sure how Black intended to meet this because B7 is coming next, whether you like it or not. And it seems quite natural for White, at least the progression. So anyway, we'll take a look in the break. We'll see if there was something missed here by Ushanina. It does feel that way. But either way, Gunina is only down 1 point as we enter her favorite time patrol in the 3+1. We will be back shortly with more action from the FIDE Chess.com Women's Speed Chess Championship. And we return here with Anna Ushanina up 2 games to 1. We are heading into the 3+1 time control, where Valentina Gunina actually swept the time control against Alexander Kosenyuk, if my memory serves me well. So, Anna, are you thinking that your namesake, Anna Ushanina, you share a name, is she going to continue her lead here? Or the player you picked before the match started, Valentina Gunina, is she going to make a comeback and take the lead?
There are so many Annas in chess. It doesn't even feel special anymore when there's another Anna, because there's so many Annas already. But yeah, it's cool that we share a name. But anyway, Gunina, I think she is. I mean, this is just exactly reminding me of what happened with Castagna. She was losing 2-1 before getting into 3+1 time control, and then she just won. I'm not sure how many games exactly in a row, but she won all of them with a 3+1. So this is really reminding me of that, but I think it all depends on how Gunina is feeling. And Ushanina, she is playing so well. She's really been dominating those 2 first games. So I'm not sure. I think that Gunina can do a comeback, but Ushanina is just playing so well. So if she keeps doing it like she's been doing it, it's going to be tough for Gunina.
I agree with you there. And so we see another Queen's Gambit accepted. This is part of Anna, not yours, but Anna Ushanina's strategy to take this pawn on c4 very early and get into a position where at least she hopes there are fewer tactics available for Gunina. When you look at this position, white has slightly more space thanks to this pawn on d4, but black just played c5 to challenge the center. And white is a little ahead in development, 2 minor pieces and castled, whereas now black only has 2 minor pieces developed. So a turn ahead, if you will, for white in terms of development.
Yeah. And a lot of times, I guess that white here tries to play d5 at some point. That's an idea for white, just to get rid of that isolated pawn. I know there's some lines before, instead of castling, we can play queen e2 immediately instead of castling, which is also quite interesting. But I think that this is the main line, basically.
Yeah, and your point about d5 is a very instructive one. So black tends to want to blockade this pawn and not allow d5 to happen, because if d5 is played, all of white's pieces start opening up. Now you look at a rook, there's a line with the queen. So if I can make d5 work on favorable terms, all of a sudden I'm just breaking open the structure in a way that helps white's pieces, because it's bishop on b3, staring kind of into a brick wall of pawns here. The knight on c3, not as active as it would like to be. So if you can make it happen, you do. But for now, Ushanina has the square cover.
Yeah. And right now, the d4 pawn is also protecting the e5 knight. And the knight is having quite a good time on e5, to be honest. If the knight takes, then pawn takes, and all of a sudden the pawn on e5 is once again going to be a very strong pawn. We were talking before about pawns on e5. They can be very, very, very annoying for the opponent. So I guess that she doesn't want to take on e5, especially now that it opens up the d file as well. So the knight has a good square there, but she is taking there. So just forget about what I said, because she just took there.
I think you were right, though, because white's play becomes, she was bishop f4. I thought she was just going to take on e7 and play rook d6 and then play rook to d1 and play a position with more space for white. She instead chooses to retreat her bishop. And after queen to c7, I still prefer white's position for sure. She played queen g4 in the other game and goes for an attack. But it does feel like black has more counter-attacking possibilities. This bishop on the f4 doesn't actually help white's position all that much.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
Yeah,
and now what I'm wondering, though, is the rook on f1, it'll probably go to e1 to defend the e5 pawn, right?
Probably.
Or that way, actually, d3 and the rook on d1. Yeah.
There's potential for attack. Nobody is disputing that, but it does feel like the f8 square available to the black knight can help defend. You just put your knight on g6, no more attack for you. The bishop on b7 is great. And without the bishop pair, without the f4 bishop and the e7 bishop, white had this d6 square for the rook. And now you just don't have that kind of progress to make. And so knight f8 played by Anna Ushanina, I think that her position is totally fine at this point.
That's why you said before that you like taking on e7, because you wanted to exchange those 2 bishops to get that d6 square.
I really did. And I guess I spoke a second too soon, because bishop takes h7 and wait, bishop h7 and queen h5? Oh, there's bishop e4 for black. That's actually really clever. That's why queen c4 was played. Because if you takes queen h5, I'm going for a checkmate, but bishop e4 protects this knight, and so you're not going to crush me over here.
Oh, that's such a nice move, this bishop e4, just protecting.
It's scary though, right? To allow bishop takes h7,
Yeah.
but Ushnina had the tactics under her control. At least that's what she believes for the time being.
It really does feel like she's playing tactically so well, Ushanina.
She has been. She's been very alert, and she's not really making the blunders that tend to happen in time trouble. And she is now up almost 20 seconds on the clock. So it seems like things are going her way right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And how does White proceed attack? That's a question that has to be asked, maybe.
Yeah. The bishop on f4 is under attack. The queen trade is offered. So she plays queen e3 to protect both. And I kind of like the decision just to prolong the tension, some of the initiative. But bishop c5 comes to mind, knight g6 first. I think that's a reasonable move. Attacking the bishop on f4. Where's this bishop even going? Bishop g5, I guess, but it's not what you want to have here.
Then you
Sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, it's just because then you might just as well exchange the bishop before, it feels like.
Agreed. And here queen g4 is good because queen g4 threatens mate on g2, and I'm threatening the bishop on g5. So she plays it, and if rook g3, I play bishop takes g5. I give up my queen to win your queen, and this is exactly what's happening. Take queens, rook to d2. Black is much better.
Yeah. Already.
Yeah, that's
Rook c1. The rooks are so off. They're not coordinating with each other.
You mean you don't like rooks on g5 and c1? That's not your favorite rook position?
I've seen a bit better, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with you there. h6, by the way, picks up the e5 pawn. She plays b4. I guess rook c8's coming, and that doesn't feel too good either.
No, this just does not feel good. It feels like something has been very wrong here. What happens if rook takes?
Yep, you saw it. She saw it. And actually, maybe this is the best try from Gunina's point of view, just to make it an imbalanced position, or an unbalanced position. I say she went h4, rook to e5's hanging. That's the problem. That's a big problem. Oh, she doesn't take it.
Can you play h5 and then rook g4?
Yes, she's going to go for h5 now that e5 is defended.
Yeah.
So Gunina did the right thing. Her position is still much worse here, but she did the right thing by sacrificing 2 minor pieces for a rook. Here's knight c6. I thought knight c6 was going to happen. And what's this? Rook f4. So we've seen many trades here. That's probably good news for Gunina. Rook a8 check and rook takes f7. Then there's knight takes e5. Oh my gosh, you're hitting
knight
both
takes
rooks.
e5. That pawn on e5. Still hanging.
Just take it now. Yeah, that's f6 or knight d7, knight f6. Nah, this is a one-sided game right now.
Yeah, it really is. All the pawns are falling apart.
So we said that Gunina would probably be favored in this 3+1, but Ushanina's taken the first game here.
She is. And I think that Ushanina is just playing so accurate. So accurate. It's incredible. She's playing so well. She's defending so well, completely fearless, and she instead is bringing the attack on her side.
Although, what was h4 there? That gave away a free pawn.
Yep, that's true.
I'm with you. She's playing very accurately, and then I was like, hold up, that probably is not a pawn you wanted to give up. And this type of position where black is much better, but you need to start attacking the pawns here. So knight f4 is a good start. And now you should pile up pressure on f3, try to make that pawn push up. Here's f4, so you take it. Just don't trade too many pawns, right? Because what white wants to do is trade f4 for, say, f7, and then sacrifice the rook for a bishop and a pawn. Ooh, nice move, f5 check.
Ooh.
See?
Very nice.
We're getting into a position where black is going to try to win this, and I think black should be winning because the rook can't just sacrifice for the pawn. Knight and bishop versus king is winning for the side with the knight and bishop. But if you can sack the rook for a bishop and a pawn or a knight and a pawn, that's just a draw right away.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I do remember the occurrence when I think it was Ushanina who wasn't able to checkmate with the knight and bishop a few years ago, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm absolutely sure that she would be able to do it now. It's not the easiest of checkmates, of course, but I'm sure that she will be able to do it now.
Yeah, if you don't know it, you're really unlikely to find it on the spot. She was f2. She doesn't even need to worry about it because rook takes g4, king takes, the king comes to e2, the black king comes back. This pawn is promoting.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So she gets the W, Ushanina. She moves up to 2 games, and we have another London system, which I'm sure Gunina is tired of.
Yeah. I really think she started yeah, once again with the c4, the knight on a6. We've seen this before, and Gunina is not happy about it, probably.
No, she has moved instantly. She is over 3 minutes. She has more time than she started with. So clearly she feels comfortable playing the opening. But from the positions that arise from the opening, it seems like they've been problematic for her.
Absolutely. And what do you think is going wrong for her in this opening? Why is it becoming so tough for Gunina with this opening?
She has no chance at making the ambitious moves she likes to play. We see once again, here are these 4 pawns for white across the fourth rank, and there she was f5. So now, at least compared to the earlier game, she has chances to be adventurous, to go for pawn pushes. But ultimately, I think that white's position is so structurally sound that it's just much harder to play black.
Yeah. And b5 controlling a6 there as well, pushing for a5. Just if d5, then c5 could be a move.
Right,
So
but
it just gets tricky.
now she could probably she could have played d5 because b5 pawn wasn't defended.
Yeah.
But if you played d5, there was knight to e5, so that was smart to play bishop f6, just not to
And then
allow
the
the move.
c6 square would be
Exactly.
very weak.
And the trades on b6 are not so scary with your rook on 8 because you control this file. So she plays d5. She's trying to undermine the defense of the b5 pawn. Take with the f pawn. There it is. You want to take on c4, take on b5, collapse white's pawn chain.
And that's good, actually. That's good. That b5 pawn is going to become perhaps a little bit weak. So the question is what to do here now. Maybe you should play knight d2 because then the e4 pawn will be hanging after the pawn is taking on c4. So that could be an idea, but she takes first on b6.
Okay, so it takes back, and now knight d2. So your exact idea was played. If you take on c4, you lose control of the e4 pawn, but you do get the b5 pawn as well. So I don't like the look of that for black. I think it's just very risky to take on c4. But if she calculates concretely and sees here's an exact way out of the position, whoa, she plays e5 instead.
Wow.
Okay, now that's a Gunina move, and I mean that complimentary here. That's like a very ambitious move where you can try to blast through your d pawn. If you take on e5, we take with the bishop. Your rook's under attack on a1. So knight b3. So can you take on c4? Oh, it's check. And I was like, oh, can I take on c4 and take on b5? Then I realized, wait, if you take with the queen on c4, it's check to the king.
Wow. Well, at least she's playing actively, Gunina here. Actually, I'm starting to maybe like this for black. This f4 square, the d4 pawn is hanging. There's a lot of things happening in the center here.
Yeah, there are. And I'm worried to some extent about a collapse of the center. And taking d5 first. I was thinking that, take on e5 like rook to d1. She instead chooses this move order. But with the center collapsing now, white's pawn on b5 is defended by the queen, and black's pawn on b6 is not defended. But I like the look of this bishop on 5. This knight can come to f4, as you were suggesting earlier. Now the queen can come to e5, going for a checkmating attack. I do like white, though. I have to admit. Queen c4 comes to mind as the next move for white.
Yeah, seems like a great move. Just centralizing the queen, putting some pressure on the bishop, asking for an exchange. The b6 pawn is very weak, is going to remain very weak probably as well, especially with the knight on c4. The bishop is pointing at the b6 pawn. It does look in the long run like it's positionally good for white.
Yes. This pawn on b6 stuck in its tracks. So queen c4 here played, and I think she's going to try queen e5 because trading queens is not going to be a fun endgame. In fact, it might just be a losing endgame. It's very bad for black. But she needs to do something. She could... I actually don't know what to do. The e4 pawn is also very weak.
That's the problem, because if you play queen e5 and then g3, I mean, you don't have time with h4 because the e4 pawn is hanging.
It is. It simply is. So, what can Gunina try here? You can't trade on c4. You lose the b6 pawn. Or if you defend the b6 pawn with rook to b8, you're so passive. She goes for h4.
She goes for it anyway.
I think she recognized that her position is bad, so she's just trying to see this liquidation occur. And okay, well, now it's just an extra pawn for white. You can even play queen takes h4 if you want. As if we trade queens on h4, my pawn structure is not so important. So queen takes h4 is just a good move. Just a good move to steal the pawn.
She's not doing it though. Knight f1. I sort of preferred having taking on h4 and then having the option of playing knight c4 and keeping the knight there. But she's going back with the knight instead.
Yeah, I'm with you. The knight on f1, it's defensive. It keeps your king safe, but I don't think it was completely necessary, and I would much prefer my knight being out on c4. So she's protecting the king for now. She might play rook c1. Knight g5 threatens knight f3. You check, you have to move back. That's not fun. Rook c1, rook c6. It's very easy for white to play here.
Absolutely. The b6 pawn is now hanging. That b pawn is going to become very strong. And there's just not enough attack for black.
No, there's not. Rook d8, though, that's a good move. Trying to get rook to d1. You need some sort of pressure, but the queen on c4 is brilliant. It defends on f1. It pins the knight here. Rook to b7 comes. There it is, keeping the king stuck. King wanted to go to h7, but now you can't do that with your knight under attack. Queen f3, threatening the rook on b7 and some kind of bishop takes g3 as well. Bishop takes
That's
g3.
Good. You should do it now.
But then there's queen takes f7 check as an option potentially. Okay, she's thinking.
First, yeah, exactly.
She takes it. Queen takes f7 now. Smart move. She's going to get another position with two pieces against the rook. Wait, rook takes f2. She's not down two pieces.
Rook takes f2?
She forgot the rook could come back, and she just shook her head. She's like, "Oh, didn't work out."
Yeah.
That was another instructive moment by Anna Ushina. We're going to go back to the game just very quickly to go over this moment here. With rook, bishop takes g3. The point is that pawn takes, I have queen takes g3. Your knight is pinned. So at the very least, I can make a draw, but I can also maybe try to play for more. I can't go queen h4. The queen covered it. But queen f7 was so smart because at the end of this, white would have been up two minor pieces and a passed pawn for the rook. We saw how Ushina won the previous game like this. So let's go to the newest game because we saw queen trade out of the opening with this kind of solid position against the Caro-Kann and playing for the queenless middle game now. So Anna, with Gunina down 3 points in the match, what do you make of this opening? What's Gunina's intention?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. I was just gonna say that it's not that often that you see two pieces versus a rook in games, and we've seen it in quite a lot of games this time. So I think that's really interesting that we've had such a theme throughout this match. But I think that right now, maybe Gunina, she's just not trusting completely her calculations somehow. Maybe she just wants to play something solid, something that she understands, have some plans. Maybe that's what she's thinking. Because as you said before, she's lost now 3 games. I don't think she's so happy with how it's been going today. So I think that's maybe just it. But I'm surprised that she exchanged queen so early in the opening. I'm quite surprised about that.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like she's playing with the ambition that we've seen her play in other games, but maybe she doesn't trust her ambitious self. Perhaps because of how the other games have been going. She's like, maybe I just need to play something solid, something that gives me a slight advantage. And if I can press that advantage into a win, that's the best case scenario. But if my opponent defends very well, then credit to her. She's having a good event. But at least this way, I'm not causing myself any sort of tremendous panic by going all in at a certain moment.
Absolutely. That's how I think she's thinking as well. And I think she's recognizing just how well Gunina is defending everything. Because she has been playing, she has been playing her play, Gunina. She has been trying to attack, but Gunina has always found a way to defend, and she's done that in a very good way.
Right. And bishop f1. So Gunina's position now it's calm, it's tame. But what are the ideas? She brings her knight to c4. Then what? These are the important questions. Not just do I have this move? Can I safely do that? Yeah, you can. But what's your actual plan here? And I think Ushinida is about to play rook to d8 and offer an exchange of rooks. And now with 4 minor pieces per side, the real question is what is each side going for?
Yeah, that's a really good question here. I'm sort of thinking that I'm liking the fact that there is an available f4 square for black. I'm liking that there because if g3, the h3 pawn could become a bit weak. The bishop could become a bit stuck on f1. I guess he wants to go out on the other diagonal and not on this one. So I'm sort of liking that for black. Now, though, I guess that white wants to play c4, c5. She's doing that. Takes, and it's going to be important to take the... Is it going to be important? Maybe it's not, because there's no way to enter with the rook to the d file. I was going to say it's important to take the d file, but the rook doesn't have that many places to go to on the d file.
So all of these squares are under white's control.
Yeah, so I'm not really sure.
Good move, h4.
Yeah.
The knight wants to get into f4. If you take with the knight, we can just trade pieces. The knight on g6 is dominated by the pawn 3 squares away. And look at a5. Here comes a6. So take first on g3 and go for a6 here. This is actually kind of scary.
It is. And now we can see that even though we got this type of opening, which seemed very solid, Gunina is finding a way to exploit Black's king somehow. So she always finds a way, and she did it this time too. And she's playing a6 now. And now the question is how, well, rook d7 was a good move defending the b7 pawn. Yeah.
But
I don't know, I don't see the exact attack.
If white had a free move, though, a takes b7 kind of concerns me, because I take with the king, there's no good discover check, but who likes walking into a discover check? And if you take with the rook, there's bishop a6 type of ideas, kicking the rook off of b7. So she plays bishop d8, but now I'm really looking at a takes b7. I mean, that move.
Actually, you're right. Bishop a6, that's a move that I didn't see, but that's a move that was very strong in that line. But she went bishop c3 instead.
I like taking on b7. It looked a little more precise, but she keeps the pressure over there. Knight d2. The pawn's still pinned, and this knight can come to c4, and if it goes c4 into d6, or if you take me on c4, you've given up the bishop pair. I like knight c4, actually. She takes first. She'll rook a1 check, and now she's going to go knight c4.
This is looking better and better for white, to be honest.
It really is. She has bishop a6. Okay.
Now
also,
she plays it.
Rook a7. It's weird, but so far black is holding.
Yeah. Question is, should you check? Yeah.
And bishop c4, I guess. But then h3 falls. Then rook h1. Like, I would actually give up the h pawn, so I can go rook h1, rook h8. You know, so bishop c4 is a good move. Do not take on h3 unless you want to lose the game right away.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe you could take and play bishop c8 to close off the last rank, but what a risky decision that would be.
Yeah, there's all this knight. Well,
wow, she does it.
She does it. She's gonna go for it.
That's surprising to me because rook h8 comes.
Whoa.
And wait, actually, rook d7, there's bishop a5. So she actually is just losing here. Bishop a5.
Yeah, she just lost a piece here.
So good pressure was upheld by Gunina, and Ushinida didn't want to continue like having this position where she couldn't really move, but she stole a pawn, and unfortunately she regrets it because she lost a piece, and Gunina should be able to convert this one. She has plenty of time in her clock. She is up a piece for just one pawn. The king on b7 is not safe here. I want to bring a knight to c4, for instance. Bishop e6 now. And then you take on f5.
Very nice move, bishop e6. And Gunina has the time too. She has 20 more seconds, and she's a piece up. A very good square, c4, knight c4. That e5 pawn is hanging. d6 is weak.
A good effort, though, there by Ushinida. Now we just trade rooks, and I take on g6. And my g-pawn is too fast.
Yeah, she's defending.
Yeah, you could take on b6, but now I can go win this pawn, for instance. I don't necessarily need to push my pawn just yet. King e3, knight g4. Oh, she does this just to simplify. That pretty clever.
Yeah, she did it so quickly, but obviously she saw it.
Yes, and the good thing is, no matter whose move it is, with the king on g and king on g6, it's a winning position for the side with the king on g6. So she understood that. She studied her end games, and we should see the next game get underway.
Yeah, it'll probably be the last game of the 3+1 time control. Then we're gonna move on to the bullet games.
Right. And I can't tell
Probably.
if Ushanina is frozen. Oh no, she moved. Okay. She was holding her face. She clearly wasn't happy about that.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell if her end of things were frozen.
No, yeah, of course. You said it immediately. You cannot take on h3 because there is this rook h1, rook h8 plan.
Yeah.
But
I'll show that one more time because we have seen the same opening. They'll play quickly, but just to show that once more, that bishop takes h3 was a move that opened up the position for the white rook to get active. The position was worse for black. White has more space, more control. The pieces are worse here for black, but bishop takes h3 was an immediately regrettable decision, and then white went on to win. But back to this game, hey, it feels like deja vu. We've seen this before, haven't we?
We've seen this so many times, Robert. So many times. Well, wait, has Gunina won any game with this?
Nope.
Nope, she hasn't, right? Just wanted to make sure.
This feels like I'm punished, honestly, by seeing this over and over again because it's like, all right, Robert, learn where black went wrong. Wait, that hangs a pawn? No, c takes d5, there's knight takes d5. Okay, I thought it hung a pawn because the knight on a6 is left undefended, but after c d5, there's knight takes d5 here, and then the bishop on f4 would have also been under attack. But that, to me, at first looked like just an outright blunder. Wait, c6? Can I play c6 here? Uh-oh.
c6 looks like a good move.
Because the knight needs defense.
c6, queen c8, but if you can get that pawn to c6 so quickly, it does not look good.
No, it certainly doesn't. And queen b5 was played. So it's funny because Gunina went to play quickly, like for some activity, and then Ushanina played queen to b5 to the c6. It's an easy move to overlook, this c6 move, but the point is after queen c8, you can just put a rook on c1, something like this, protect your passed pawn, try to go c7 even, or knight to e5. The position is overwhelming in white's favor, but queen b5 is still a good move. It just doesn't feel as, as mighty, as quick, as aggressive as c6 right away, because now black can put a rook on c8, for instance.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like that c6 move. I mean, whenever you can play c6 that quickly, just get a nice pawn on c6 that cannot be taken. It really feels like there is something that has gone a bit wrong for black. So knight h4. The bishop gonna go. Where's the bishop gonna go? Or c6 gonna come, of course. c6 is a move that has to be thought about now.
Yeah, at least now the knight can come back to c7, and she just played it without having to deal with a capture there. There's a bishop on f4 before. Yeah. Now it's safe and sound. So actually, I'm starting to appreciate black's position more and more. As if you are not getting c6 through, you need to keep your queen on the b file, because otherwise I would take on c5. I can't take on c5 with the queen under attack, but I can make a move like rook f to b8 or rook a to b8, whatever, or queen a6, and now I'm threatening to take on c5.
Yeah. And the question is then, is she gonna push to c6, or is she gonna take, or is she gonna defend?
And I just want to answer a question the chat is asking very quickly. They kept saying, why couldn't you take on c6 with the queen? Anytime you did that, the knight on a6 was under attack. So you needed the queen to stay defending this knight, which is why c6 was so powerful. The queen would have to go to c8 to keep the knight defended. I just wanted to point that out. I saw that was the question asked in the chat. Now we have a capture on c5. So white has an extra 2 pawns on the a through c files, but black has an extra 2 pawns here in the center with e6 and d5. So Gunina's had this sort of structure, more pawns in the center quite a bit. Anna, how do you rate this position compared to many others we've seen in previous games?
Well, for sure, it's a bit more dynamic. It feels like all of the other positions have been very positional that we've seen, but it feels like now, there's potential for both sides, but those a4, b4, c5 pawns, I'm really liking this for white, I think. I don't really see an exact. I mean, if black could push e5, d4 quite quickly, then that would be one thing. But I feel like the queen is quite, out of play. Went from a6 to c8 now. Now b5. I just feel like those pawns are so quick.
Right. And knight g4 is a way to say, oh, let me attack your bishop on e3, try to play e5. Bishop f4 says, nope, you're not playing e5 so fast. And my next move is h3 to kick your knight from g4. So d4 comes to mind as a potential move, but then I'm looking at b6. This knight on c7 is actually kind of pinned to this rook down here. I think b6 is just overwhelmingly strong and probably just winning on the spot.
Wow, this really did not turn out well.
It
for Gunina.
Certainly did not. No.
She did. She tried to change the move, or she tried to do something else against this opening. Probably because she was so frustrated about the results on the other ones. b6 was not played. Okay.
I mean, knight d7 is probably a necessary move, but look at how little space black has with all the pieces stepping on each other's toes. Okay, now f6. I mean, f6 doesn't look good because all the light squares, but there's still b6.
There's always b6.
Oh, here comes the knight to c6 as well.
It's just completely dominating.
Yeah, knight this isn't c6. Fun. This is the opposite of fun.
This is the exact opposite of fun.
But look at the clock. Only 36 seconds left for white. This actually is the type of position where black could play a6 was a hard move to play and probably lost anyway. There's knight to e8. Here comes c6. Here comes b6. I think b6 still works for white.
Threatening b7.
Now e5 or knight d6 was played, but still b6. No, this is just
not
sad.
Fun at all.
Here comes queen c5 next.
Yeah. I was going to say queen c5 immediately, but there's obviously knight f5. But very soon, queen c5 seems like a great move. Wow.
This is not fun. I mean, I'm looking at it. I mean, it's fun for white. It's fun for Eugenia for sure. But look at these pawns. b6 and c6 here. Oh, that's a...
Is that not a rook? Or a knight?
Yeah, you can take it if you want, but she might not do that. She does. Bishop c5, good move. And b7. It's just straightforward. Just queen d7. Actually, you might win this b pawn. And if you win this b pawn, there's still chances here for black.
Yep, that's true. That's true. I have to be careful here now.
Oh, okay. You can't take on c5, and you also can't take on b7 because queen e8. So queen c7 was a smart move to play because that way you still can't take on b7 with queen a8 check. Oh gosh. So king h7 or now queen a8. Okay, queen a8 was even better, but it's still strong. Queen takes b8 followed by bishop a7 is what's about to happen. Queen takes b8.
Yeah.
She doesn't do it, but 6 seconds for her. No wonder she's
very low time.
Yeah.
Like 8-9 seconds for Gunina.
And the whole point of queen b8 was to play bishop a7 next, but now it doesn't work because after she does it now, it doesn't work. Queen takes a7 and queen takes f2 check. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. She did it too late and she loses the game. And the 3+1 is up, and that is a devastating loss because now Gunina is down just 1.6. I want to show it in instant replay here because I was the one clamoring for queen takes b8. At the start here, queen b8, queen takes bishop a7 wins for white because there takes pawn queens. There's no queen takes f2. The rook is only on c4. But as we saw in the game, the problem with what she did was she doubled her rooks when that wasn't necessary on the file. I understand why she did it, but she sees the tactic too late. And unfortunately, she's tricked herself into a loss because of the checkmate for black. Oh my gosh, Anna, I don't even know what to say.
I don't know what to say either. Wow, that was just such a turn there. Just this is huge for Gunina. She's just 1 point down. We're gonna enter the bullet games, and wow, I'm speechless. I'm speechless, Robert. I did not expect that whatsoever. Completely turned there in just a couple of seconds.
And I see Anna Maya in the chat. Shout out to her. She's saying, never give up. That's absolutely correct. You don't resign. It was the last game of the time segment. But we're not going to give up on this match. We will take a break. We need to catch our breath. We need to figure out what even to say about this. But it is still a 1-point lead for Anna Ushanina. We will be back in a few minutes for the bullet portion of this FIDE Chess.com Women's Speed Chess Championship Grand Prix final. And we return here with Valentina Gunina cutting lead to 1 point. Reminder to everybody of what they are playing for, because the difference between first and second place is 4 grand prix points in these. They play 3 of the 4 legs, so 4 grand prix points is quite a lot, and $1,000. So Anna, a ton at stake here.
A ton is at stake, and as you said, 4 grand prix points is a lot. It's a lot. So absolutely, they're playing for a lot right now.
I mean, I'm nervous for them. So as we return, get ready for the games. I don't know. I don't know who's the favorite player here, because Anna Ushnina has +1 on the overall match score, but Gunina has the momentum after surviving this crazy game, and not just surviving, but winning it and winning the last 2 games. So Anna, who do you think is the favorite as we head into the bullet?
I think that Ushanina, she's just been playing so well, and she's sort of been outplaying Gunina, I feel like. But at the same time, something at the end has not worked quite right. And Gunina has been able to take advantage of that fact and turn the tables completely and win the games. So I think, I have no idea. It's bullet, it's starting. We'll see. I don't have a person. Gunina, maybe. Let's say that. Let's say that.
Let's see what the chat has to think. The chat should give their predictions, but right now we see that it's another QGA, a Queen's Gambit accepted, where White has a bit more space, is a little ahead in development. We've seen this position before. As you point out, Anna, if White can get D5 in, you're often very happy, or you play around the pawn with Knight to E5 coming soon.
Absolutely. And we've seen that they've been repeating the openings quite a lot throughout this match. Maybe it's good now to play something that they really know now that they're playing bullet. You just want to really play the opening quickly in bullet. That's really important. We can see that there's a C4 square. That's a bit weak. The knight is going to D5. And that's one of the things. When you have an isolated pawn on D4, there is sort of like an outpost on D5. No pawn that can eliminate that piece there.
And that's often
great square.
No, sorry, I was going to say often the best strategy is to blockade the square. And the knight E5 is also a good piece, though. So it's funny that both knights seem to be very good in the center, and black plays move G6 just to make sure there's no attack on the H7 square.
Absolutely. Bishop H6, attacking the rook, bishop G7 going back.
Okay, we see a trade here, and Queen F6, there's Knight D7. So watch out for that. I think she wanted to play Queen F6 to bring her queen or a knight to F4, but you had to watch out for the D7 square.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
Oh, don't blunder checkmate. She doesn't. F3, smart move. And watch out for Bishop E4.
Ooh, Bishop E.
Her queen was under attack. Her queen was under attack. I also didn't see that at first. The knight was attacking the queen that was on H6. So, we get riled up by the bullet. Uh-oh, that's a piece.
Ooh,
Rook takes E5. I would just resign. Gunina should resign.
Yeah.
Match situation, just resign.
Yeah, absolutely. But what you said before, it's so difficult to do. They're so into a match, but think about it, she should just resign here.
Right now, after the queen trade, you resign. You really should not play this game.
No,
she needs to understand that she has no chance in this game here. So if she resigns right now, she'll save. There it is. So she does it after a little while. And
it's 2 points. It's not that much.
It's 2 points. And she does have time to mount a comeback here. But it's going to be tough. 2 full points.
Yeah. It's possible, but it's difficult. But it's still possible.
Yes. And so we see an aggressive play here by Gunina with black. She goes pawn all the way to F4. Her E6 pawn is back where the E5 square is white's for the taking. So this is looking good for white at first glance. It's like a good French.
Yeah. And the E6 pawn is weak. There's that amazing square on E5 for the knight. It feels like white is just getting what they want to get.
Yeah, the knight E4 looks pretty good, but that's why it was traded off just now. Knight to D2 kicks it back. I like Knight D6 because now white's knights, one's on C5, but the other knight probably would have gone to C5 or to E5. So here we see queen to E5 offering the queen trade. It's forced because the knight on D6 was under attack. White is simply better here. A great play by Ushanina. Even though Gunina is so fast and she's ahead on the clock, I think ultimately Ushanina is wasting time here in the match. She's up 2 games, and with just over 6 minutes left, this is not going to be easy for Gunina to get a victory in any game.
Not at all. Not at all. It's actually going to be very tough, especially because Ushanina is playing so incredibly well. Even if this is bullet, even if it's just 1 minute, she's playing so well. So, and she's constantly alert about everything. So it's definitely not going to be easy for Gunina.
E5. Oh, the D5 pawn's hanging. I'm trying to come up with something for Gunina.
Yeah.
Knight G5 is also a good move. It protects. Oh, that's very important. Protects E6 and Rook F7 with Knight F3 check ideas possible. So for Gunina with Bishop D7, she needs to win this game somehow. I just not sure. Ooh, Rook E5 was actually just good for White. Rook E5 still is good for White. Kicking this knight out and hitting the E6 pawn.
Going back and forth there.
Mm-hmm. F4. Oof. No space. And bishop takes d5 doesn't work. The bishop covers the e8 square. So actually, I think, well, e6 is hanging. So she took with the wrong piece on f7 there.
Yeah, she had to take with the king.
And now you're down a pawn, and you're down the clock, and this game is going to take forever. So for Gunina, this is a big issue.
Very big issue. No, this feels like it's going Ushanina's way. It really does feel that way.
Ushanina's been an absolute amazing performer here. She plays this extremely solid style, and she doesn't really blunder very often. She has blundered, obviously, we've seen that happen, but she doesn't blunder very regularly, and she just is improving her position step by step.
I think she's really good at that, at improving her position step by step.
Yeah, she just, it feels like every single game. Watch out for Rook F2. There's some chances here. So plays B. She was B4. Okay. But Black needs to somehow win all these pawns. It's not going to happen. But Rook E5. I'd bring the Rook to E7. Shows Bishop E4 first.
Now this one is going down.
Okay, so
she's gonna take.
And C6. Too many passed pawns. Too many passed pawns. King D6 even. Rook E5 she played. But this B pawn, also some danger here.
You have the B pawn is quick, but there's a bishop defending.
She resigns, and if she resigns, that means it's a 3-point match with 3:45 to go. That means that Anna Ushanina, unless something really tragic happens, she will win the first leg of this Grand Prix.
Yep, it does seem that way, and she's won both games now in the bullet. So I think that Ushanina, she's just really been impressing this whole tournament. I feel like since the beginning, she's just really been impressing. I think she played against she played in the first one against Shansaya, if I'm correct.
Yep.
So yeah, and ever since then, she's just constantly been impressing in this event. So, I mean, I think she deserves to win. To be honest, she's been playing great chess.
Yeah, and Gunina had the momentum heading into this bullet here. Gunina won those final two games. The last one thanks to a tragic blunder from Ushanina's perspective. And she's playing this solid style game after game. Even here, okay, now White's doing well with his knight getting into D6. But she has the setup with this compact pawn structure, everything kind of hard to make inroads in. And so now knight C8 she can play. She does it. She wants to trade off the knight and leave her opponent with just a bishop. And just not easy to make progress the way Ushanina is playing.
Nah, and look at that B4 square now as well. Either for the knight, either for the queen. It just looks like a great square. Knight on D5 is so strong.
She's going to bring her knight back to C8. The knight comes to C4, and now B5, probably. She plays it, and then queen to C3, I think, after knight to D2. Knight E3 played. And I mean, the knights are replacing each other. So
yeah, you had a name for the bishop and the pawn, the ice climbers. Do you have a name for two knights that are protecting each other as well?
I do. Or... It's not my name. It's Box, who is from PogChamps. He called them the stunt doubles. Because you replace one with the other, and just nobody notices. And so those are the stunt doubles. Now they're no longer there. But C5 looks like it works because the pawn on D4 is pinned to the queen on E4. So it's rook C7. We have a minute and just under a minute and a half left in this match. And what's going on here? The D5 square. Just put a knight there. Put a pony on D5.
Big pony on D5. Absolutely. Absolutely.
F5 also makes sense. Keeping all of White's pieces stuck to D4. This is just a good position for white based on the pieces, but okay, she's just going to go f5 and rook g3 and stuff like that and try to crack the whole board open. I was going to say it's not that easy to make progress in, but look how quickly Gunina's played this game too.
40 seconds left. She's played everything in 20 seconds. Super quick. She knows that 45 seconds, she really wants to finish this game and get another one. But even if that's the case, it's not enough because Eugenia is leading by 3 points.
Yeah, this one, though, looking to be in Gunina's favor, that's for sure. G6, probably the only move for black at this point, but even G6, rook e1 probably to win G6. But the rook e1 is knight f5. You have to be careful. You can't just assume your opponent is absolutely nothing in a position like this, even though white is clearly much, much better.
Yep.
And here we go. Queen f6, queen takes g6 check, queen h7 checkmate. Oh, no. I mean, when everything goes wrong, it's just, I mean, it was checkmate in one move, but you put the queen on the wrong square.
Yeah. Nah. Sometimes everything just goes wrong. Queen h7 checkmate.
And I guess they have time for this last one. I wasn't sure they started in time. It doesn't matter. I mean, they can just, it's just a bullet game. But I would just offer a draw or something. If I were Gunina, an extra point doesn't make a difference. Losing, winning, you've already lost the match. So I'd probably just offer a draw. Me told there are 5 seconds left in the match clock when this game started. So it does count, but what does it really count for, you know?
Yeah, it doesn't really count for anything. I think Gunina is just absolutely right now. She's just not feeling to play this game. She just wants this to end now, I think. There's nothing to play for now. And that must really hurt to place the queen on g7 instead of h7. You can see it on her shaking her head.
The good news, and it's not good news, but it's making the best of a bad situation, is it didn't matter. Right? She was losing the match regardless. So even though she put her queen the wrong square with checkmate and won after a nice game, by the way, it wouldn't have changed the match. So at least she has that going for her, that she blundered in a game that was inconsequential.
Exactly. That's true. It would have hurt much more if that could have led to her, if she had chances of coming back. But she didn't at that point. So that's true.
Well, this is another great looking position for Ushanina here with this bishop on b2. Stellar piece in attack. Bishop takes g6 is about to be the next move. e5 doesn't work. I just take it.
So there have been so many great bishops here, I feel like. So many great fan shadow bishops that have just been absolutely dominating the whole position today.
There have been. Tough to deal with those pieces. And rook to e1, I imagine. Okay, rook d8, good move, hitting this bishop on d3. So just move your bishop away. Rook to d2, though. Rook to b5. I actually like how Gunina is surviving this, because I think most people would have just collapsed and probably been completely lost already. Rook f5 now. She's going to play, I think. Or rook d5. She can bring her rook back. Ooh. Yikes.
Aye, that hurts.
It does. Still some chances for black. You can just trade queens, play d4 or d4 right away. That way you don't also have to trade the rook. So this is a better move order. So really black still has very good chances. All of her pieces are protecting d4. And she plays d3. Maybe a little too soon.
Yep. We're seeing the last game of the first leg.
We are, which means that our time commentating together is coming to an end, which is maybe good for you, but a little sad for me.
It's not good for me. No. It's sad for me too. It's a sad day. Not commentating this with you anymore, leaving this wooden box. I mean, it's just the last day for everything.
Wow, that is pretty hard. Knight before check. There's a knight fork.
Oh,
there was a knight fork, and I was too busy being saddened by your comments there. But we'll all miss the wooden box.
Mr. Wooden Box will be missed.
And what's going on here? So king takes e4. Feels like black is still better here with that passed pawn. But I guess you can't really make progress too easily. Just repeating now. And by the way, Mungsul Termonk, who made it to the quarterfinals before losing to Vaishali. She's been doing Guess the Move. We've seen her play and win Guess the Move many times, where if you're on chess.com, you can go into the game and make the moves on the board yourself. And the person with the most guesses correct, you see their name shown on screen. So it's been cool to see her doing that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A very strong player as well. It was a very tough match versus Vaishali.
It was indeed. Okay, this king is coming to g3, and then you're going to take on h3, and then you have two pawns here. So king g2, g4, g3, things like that. And f4 first, h3, h2. She's going to go for. This pawn though. She was knight e6, now h2. She scores a victory. Unfortunately for Gunina, it's a little too late, but it's nice to end on a victory regardless. And resignation. So we're actually going to take a quick break because we will bring on Anna Ushanina for an interview. So everybody stay tuned. We will be back very shortly with the championship interview. And we are joined by the champion of the first Grand Prix leg, Grandmaster Anna Ushnina. Anna, huge congratulations to you.
Thank you very much.
I have to ask, you've played now 4 of the last 5 days, and you are relatively new, it seems like, to chess.com, at least based on your account. Are you exhausted from all of this blitz and bullet play?
Yes, it's very interesting tournament, and it's very hard because everyone is very well played, and I don't know, very strong, and I enjoy to participate here.
Of course. And how did you think? How do you feel about your chances today versus Gunina?
Uh, we played with Valentina a lot of games, and of course, it's very, very strong opponent, especially in blitz and rapid. And she can play like very, very strong. And of course, I just wanted to play, and okay, what will be, will be.
That's a good mindset. And well, speaking of what will be. You were about to go up 3 games, and in the last game of the 3 minute time segment, you blundered and were checkmated. How were you able to recover? Because it seemed like Valentina was gaining the momentum all of a sudden.
Well, okay, it's happened. I mean, I wanted to sacrifice queen before, and when king was on 8th rank, and after I just forget to move queen and king, and of course, of course, when you blundered like that, you become very upset. But okay, I mean, it's happened because it was very few, not so much time. So okay, it's happened.
Of
It
course.
can happen.
Of course.
So.
And Anna, we were praising your opening choices. It seemed like with white in these London systems and black in the Caracons, you seemed very, very comfortable and were playing extremely precise chess. Do you just feel like those are the great openings for blitz because it makes your life easier to come up with plans?
No, I don't think so. Just I don't know. Caracan, it's I played my whole life, so I don't know. We will see what will be after. Maybe I need to change. I don't know.
Did you try to play openings that you thought were a bit more positional because you know that Gunina is a very attacking player?
No, of course, I wanted to play more solid, but it's not that easy because at every position, Valentina looking for chances to make a game complicated. So I mean, it's not that easy.
For sure. Well, I won't say you made it look easy, but you were extremely impressive throughout this entire knockout. Congratulations to you once more. We have been nothing short of in admiration of your play. So you were the deserved champion. So congrats once more.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Very, very big congrats to you. Just as Robert said, we've been so impressed by your play. It's been an honor to commentate that. It's been great to watch you play such good chess.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
And that was Anna Ushanina, Grandmaster, who won the first leg. As you see, the next leg starts July 1st. So in just several days from now, we'll be back with the call. Sort of the same format, same timing, and all that. I mean, Anna, it was a lot of fun commentating alongside you. We had a blast with all this action here. Do you have any kind of final thoughts about this Grand Prix leg that we just saw of the Women's Speed Chess Championship?
I think it's been great. I think it's been such a fun tournament to follow. There's always been something happening after each game. There's been, another one. It's been a nonstop. It's been a marathon of chess. And there's so many more legs to come as well. So it's going to be July. It's going to be a month of chess, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited and looking forward to that.
It certainly will be. But for now, we will have to sign off. We are going to send you to the Chess Kid matchup between Chess Kid USA and the UK team. So that will be a lot of fun, led by Fun Master Mike. But we will have more FIDE Chess.com Women's Speed Chess Championship starting on July 1st.